Hello everyone, welcome back to another commentary. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today Eric and I are finally going to tackle The Matrix, which I'm so excited about. We wanted to do this for a very long time. This one was requested by Malik. Thanks to Malik. We were going to do this eventually, but Malik is kind of making us do it even earlier, which is great. And I just saw this recently, so it's fresh in my mind. So that's exciting. I reviewed it with DJ, who had never seen it before. And that was a really fun experience, watching this with somebody that had never seen it and didn't really know how it ends or a lot about it. Like, he didn't really know like the mythology at all. It was just like, well, I know it's a
I mean, I guess that's not a thing anyone talks about.
All I knew, yeah. But even the basic premise, like there was a lot of that he just didn't even know.
Okay.
And I was like, well, this is fun. He was like, I've heard of red pill, blue pill. I don't know what that means. And I was like, that's cool. So yeah, it was fun.
Well, and remember, this movie was advertised as like like you have to see it. Like, we can't explain it to you. The Matrix needs to be... I forget what the line was, but there's like a specific famous line in the trailer where it's like, it needs to be seen to be believed or understood or whatever.
That's how Morpheus describes it. That's what Morpheus says.
Okay, then maybe that is
so Morpheus, yeah, and they probably just used that in the trailer.
Yeah.
And I actually made fun of that when I reviewed it with DJ, because Morpheus, right after he explains to Neo what the Matrix is, says, unfortunately, you can't explain what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. And I'm like, you kind of just explained it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the closing line of the trailer.
I haven't seen that trailer in a long time, but I remember it being enticing, and like I think it had a good advertising campaign.
Yeah, and for the next like couple of years, everything was something and the Matrix.
Yes.
Titan AE was Star Wars meets the Matrix.
It was kind of like what happened with to a larger degree, like what happened with superhero movies right after Batman, where like everything was Batman, except with the Matrix, it was action movies. Just like everything was it didn't even have to have a sci-fi bent. Like there were things that were like air quotes more grounded that still did the like jump in the air 360 degrees around thing.
Well, I'm not even saying things were actually the Matrix. I mean, that's what everything was described as.
Oh yeah, sure.
Everything was something meets the Matrix.
You know, 20 years later, you still hear that with things.
That's
it's
true.
Like, it's that meets the Matrix.
That's true. That's true.
Let's go ahead and get right into it. If you want to watch it with us, get out your DVD or your Blu-ray, however you're going to watch it. This one's kind of complicated because I don't know if the newer releases are technically any longer or shorter.
We're watching the green one.
No, we're watching the real one.
The blue one.
We're watching the original blue one.
Okay.
And that's why I'm not sure if it will perfectly sync up with the later ones.
Okay.
Those are not like extended cuts or anything.
They're just
but like
tweaked visually.
Yeah, but like it may play back at like a slightly faster or slower speed.
People might not even know. We should mention that.
We'll talk about that as we watch it. And DJ and I also talked about that when we did our video. But yeah, we'll talk about that
because we compared that.
I just had to watch the green one, and I kind of wanted to go back to the blue one now because I just watched the green one.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I figured that's how you'd want to watch it. But, oh, well, we could have done it that way if you really wanted to.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay,
this is the way the movie's supposed to be.
Oh, good. Okay, because I was doing this mostly for you. I figured,
yeah.
But I wanted to see it blue too because
I'm familiar with the blue version.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that.
I take the blue pill.
Anyway, so we are watching the original bare bones DVD release, and like I said, the later releases could like be slightly faster or slower speed. That's happened to you and I trying to sync things with multiple sources. So just so you know, precisely the release we're doing. But the Matrix, like I said, doesn't have an extended cut or anything like that.
No one knows. It can just be like a coding thing. Like you'd be watching the exact same cut of the same movie that is exactly
wind up 10 seconds,
an hour and a half long and 15 seconds, and one goes faster and one goes slower just by like a millisecond. But eventually that catches up with you.
Exactly. Like if I watch it on Netflix and you watch it on Blu-ray, you could get unsynced. But anyway, but Eric and I aren't gonna have any problem being synced because we're in the same room.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Everybody, please press play right now. I can't believe I'm 11 years.
It is green at the beginning, though.
It's green at the beginning, yeah. But not as green.
Yes.
It is way greener in the new one. It's obnoxious. Like, that's not... The clouds aren't gray. I think that's all tinted green, if memory serves.
I actually think that works better.
Yeah, it does.
Because it actually represents the film, the grander film. Because it's the Matrix WB, but it's the real world, which is muddy and gray.
So, since we're talking about that, let's just go ahead and break that down. So, tell everybody about the green remaster thing.
Iconic score.
I know. It's lovely.
And no one talks about this like the Star Wars special editions, but they should.
Yes.
I guess it's because they didn't physically change elements of the movie, but obviously the second and third...
I have a theory about this, too. I think a lot of people maybe bought it for their collections, but don't actually go back to it that way. I'm wondering how many people have actually seen the green version. Yeah,
because there's no Han shot first moment, so you might just be like, because when I told you, you were like, that's not right.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I have the original DVD.
Well, remember, we threw it in and watched a couple scenes. Just
we watched both of them.
We were like, oh no.
Yeah. So obviously Reloaded and
Revolutions,
which I can never remember. I always want to call it Revelations, which is a better title.
And it's a documentary about the Matrix.
Those are both green films. They look green. In the same way that Batman Begins is an orange film. They're green films. The original Matrix is not a green film. It is a blue film, and even more evidenced by the fact that the cover art is not green.
Yes.
It's blue.
The logo is blue.
Yeah, it's the Matrix code is green, but the movie is not green. So when they did the Ultimate Matrix Trilogy release on DVD, the box set,
which is a super cool looking box,
they recolored the original film,
and that's how it
green.
is. And that's how it is on Netflix.
Of course, it is. So it matches the sequels color wise. I would have just done it. I wouldn't. Well, they shot the movies at the same time, but like, it's a similar issue to what I have with Dark Knight, where like Begins is orange, Dark Knight is blue, and Rises is white, but it kind of looks blue again.
Yeah.
At least they tried, but like...
Because Dark Knight was really super popular, and so now Dark Knight Rises has to be kind of Dark Knight again in certain ways.
Yeah, I get that they tried white, but it's just not different enough.
Yeah.
But like, this is blue, the next one is green.
But it should have had a different title, too. It should have had Dark Knight in the title again.
Yes. This is blue, the next one is green. It should be... The third one should be a different color, like.
And that's really indicative of that sequel problem of like the last two movies are just one long movie instead of it being three different movies.
Make the third one red or something. Like Smith has taken over the Matrix. Like make it something else.
Yeah. It is really nice watching this ride. Now, I will say, if they had initially colored it that way, it would have been a good idea. It's just that they didn't do it that way, so I wish they didn't go back and mess with it. Yes, I do.
Okay.
And the reason is because it's really nice foreshadowing. If everything is slightly tinted green, it's like we live in this computer world where the actual code is green, and so the world you're living in has this weird, gross, like, green... pea-like tint to it, and then when you go to the real world, it doesn't look that way. What I will give the new colored version is that when they go to the real world, it's not green. Mm-hmm. So this is not it doesn't turn into a green film. It's just the Matrix parts that are green.
Okay.
So
and that's kind of how it is in the
sequels. They think they're doing something kind of fun and artistic. The problem is, they turn up the saturation to a crazy degree where it all looks insanely unnatural, and it's really obviously done after the fact, and it just doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also tampering with art.
Yeah. But I think in retrospect it would have been a good idea in the first place. I think I read somewhere that they didn't actually decide the color of the code until like the 11th hour, so they wouldn't have even thought to do it green.
Yeah, I think I'd also heard something that like they had a couple of different color choices, and they just like at the last minute was like green, which is good because like I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. Like if it was a blue code, if it was a red code, it would have become iconic instantly. I don't think the green actually matters.
Yeah,
right.
It just feels like it does because we're familiar with the green, and there's that immediate like connection with that color in these movies now. Although I say that I like that it's green because that's like real old school early computer graphics stuff.
Yeah, which is I guess what I always just assumed it was, because it's all numbers.
If you go back and look at DOS and stuff, you got like early computers, like everything had a green background before we got into really graphically intensive stuff.
Or orange. Orange was popular a lot too. Like a lot of old computers that were just command prompt were orange.
Yeah, like Windows had, I think, green backgrounds a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think even like maybe Commodores did that, or were Commodores blue? I forget now. It's been a long time. So we can actually talk about the movie now. Trinity will do this twice, where she gets into a phone booth, puts her arm up, thinks she's gonna die, and then goes. She does it twice in the movie.
So phone booths don't even exist by the time the second one comes out, do they?
Yeah, isn't that great?
So they can't use those to escape, because I feel like there are points that I could point to in the second and third one where it's like, it'd be real nice if there were payphones.
The question there are two big questions you have to ask yourself with that, though. When we get to Matrix Reloaded, are we in, and I want to try not to talk too much about the sequels, but are we in, because they're not good, and they kind of shouldn't have been made the way they were.
I can talk about my Matrix question just from the first movie, the timeline thing.
Yeah, but, well, and that's actually part of what I was going to say, but, in Reloaded, are we in 2003? Or are we still in 99? Because when Morpheus... So this is the second question. When Morpheus breaks down the way the Matrix works and why it's the time that it is, he says it's closer to the year 1999.
You think it's 1999?
Yeah. They put us in that year because that was like the peak of the civilization before AI. Should that time continue? Like, if we continue from 99, do we get to a place in the Matrix where we make AI that becomes the machines? Like, wouldn't it... But then, would it make any sense to perpetually be in 1 year?
Well, that's always been my question, is when does the Matrix start?
How do generations work?
When they start the program, do they start at, like, 1970 or 1960 or 50 and be like, we'll have a couple of generations, then it's all going to restart? Or is it perpetually 1999, and because you're in a computer world where things aren't right anyways, you just don't notice?
I'm going to ask you this question.
But the sequel suggests time moves forward at least somewhat.
It does, yeah. But I don't think it makes sense that it would.
And they've all...
But I also don't see how generations work if it doesn't. So, that kind of breaks it a little bit.
And a number of the people that we'll meet on the ship, just in this movie, not even getting into the sequels, but just in this movie, a number of people that we'll meet on the ship have been out for years.
Yes. So has it been...
So did they get out in 96? Did they get out in 94? Or was it always 99?
Well, but not just that. The ones that were born in Zion, if time is moving at the same speed in the Matrix as it does in real life, then when, like, say, Dozer, who looks like he's probably, like, 18 or 20, was he born when the Matrix was in 1982? Like, right? Mm-hmm. So, let me back off for a second and say, this is my favorite film.
Yeah.
Like, this is my absolute favorite film. I'm going to spend so much of this commentary just asking questions and trying to figure things out, which is one of the reasons I enjoy it so much. I like doing that. But I'm going to sound like maybe I don't like this movie because I have so many, like, world-breaking questions. That is a testament to how much I love the atmosphere of this and Keanu Reeves' performance, and especially Morpheus, and, like, it is just, it's a world I love to live in. I don't care if it makes sense, but I do, but in watching, like, it's still, I don't know, all of that kind of just adds to the experience for me. It has gotten fun to try to figure it out. It's the same thing I have with a lot of Star Trek, where people used to come to my Star Trek club and they'd go, do you even like Star Trek? Because you're just constantly, like, breaking it apart and dogging on things. I'm like, when you're really passionate about a thing, you see all those flaws, and sometimes it still stays great.
Yeah. So this guy here, this red-haired guy, so I never wrote fan fiction, but I would often, like, do the fan fiction thing just in my head, where, like, I would come up with premises and things.
Did you come up with, like, a spin-off story for that guy?
No, but, like, when I was a teenager and I was thinking about, like, a Matrix 4, all I remember is that guy was important. Like, I brought him back as the antagonist, and I have no idea why. I just remember that I was like, yeah, Neo's gonna fight that guy. No. So the thing is, when something works.
Yes.
And so, like, I have always had this question about, like, the Matrix timeline. I don't care. It's not actually a problem with the movie. It's a fun, exercise. When you love something, it's fun to pick it apart.
Because
this is what used to happen with Star Wars, like, just the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, there's all those, like, different like theories and like taking things apart and like well, why didn't they just shoot the thing? They know droids exist. Like, and that guy is now responsible for the destruction of the Death
The thing
Star.
about like Vader being too powerful because he can force choke a person across subspace.
Yeah, because you can just see it on the screen. Like, those aren't actual problems. They're just fun to nitpick at. And the Matrix timeline thing is like that. Like, you give a movie its premise. You give a story its premise.
Yeah, because if you had that all figured out, this is a completely different movie.
Yeah.
And like if
it's just fun to pull at.
If the machines actually make sense in the way they're using people as batteries, they're not going to use people as batteries.
That's one of my favorite Futurama jokes.
There are way easier ways to get energy.
Have you seen the episode of Futurama where
I haven't. Or I don't remember.
They go somewhere and they're like, when the Matrix came out and it presented the idea that using humans as batteries, everyone unanimously agreed that it was the dumbest idea anyone ever came up with. But it turns out it works, and they just have a thing of human batteries.
Oh, I actually do remember that now.
Because the amount of energy you would have to expend to keep the humans on life support
would be more than
the battery that they're creating, or at least as much.
Yeah, and so like if they're just really obsessed with the poetic justice, it has to be human beings because they made the machines and the machines hate them.
Oh, we also didn't mention the fact that guy refers to Neo as his own personal Jesus Christ.
Yes,
because
which is great because he is Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
Yeah. DJ had a question about that scene where he was like, "How come when the girl?"
This is the scene we looked at. This is the specific scene we looked at to check the green.
Yeah, and like the color palette in this is still, of course, really really dreary, and something feels wrong. It's off. It feels kind of dreamworldy.
It feels like a David Fincher movie. Like, it looks like Fight Club. Like, that's what The Matrix is. The Matrix is a David Fincher movie.
Yeah, that's true. Well, once you get out like in the real world and you realize that The Matrix is a dream world, this all feels surreal in a way it wouldn't if the whole movie was like this, right?
I like
it's like this actually kind of is sort of supposed to be a clue, because it's like this. Why is this all so stylized? And then you get in the real world and it's not like that.
I actually really like the idea that like when the machines made the second Matrix, well, not the second Matrix, as we'll later learn, but in the context of this film, when the machines made the second Matrix, that had to be imperfect. They just looked back at the 90s because that's what they're basing everything on. They're like, well, this David Fincher guy, he's making Seven and Fight Club, and like, that's not a perfect world. I guess we'll make it look like that. Everything will be dirty. And
people will be satisfied with that. They'll believe that they really live in this dreary, awful, mundane world. Sure. But anyway, so
advanced.
So real quick, DJ was like, "How come that girl, when she says like definitely we should take him with him, we should take him with us, is like looking really seductively at the guy that she's with and not Neo?"
Oh, I think that's because that's like a fetishy like three-way thing.
That's kind of what I thought.
Especially because they go to like a fetish club, and everything we know about the Wachowskis, like we know the Wachowskis are like fetish club people, at least at this point in time.
Yeah,
like they come out of that lifestyle.
Obviously,
which is why they think that the party after the end of the world is a rave.
Yeah.
In the next one. It's because that's the life they live, and you draw from your own personal experiences.
Yeah, they must have that in common with the producers of Gotham, right? There's no way around that.
There is another agent here. I know there are other agents, and I'm pretty sure that guy's throughout the whole movie, but like I just think of Smith.
Yeah,
who I never thought would be the main antagonist of sequels.
But when I watched it, but it's kind of a cool idea, because he's like the anti-Neo. But we'll talk about that when. And I mean, like, that sounds obvious because it's his
that's what they make him, but he's not in this movie.
No, I disagree. He absolutely is that in this movie, thematically, and we'll talk about that. But this other agent gets almost as much screen time as Smith does up until the last act. And then there's like a third one that isn't there as much, but like the more you watch it, the more you start to get used to that, and they don't all look the same like they do to Neo. This is one of my favorite scenes, just because Morpheus saying "Go now" is great.
I thought you were going to say because it's your favorite level and path of Neo.
Well, I was also going to mention that because it's hilarious. It's like "Go now," except there's a lot more cubicles in that version.
I have the blueprints. I've been in the building. Like, You're not in a secret government like building.
Well, no, you're wrong though.
It's
not
when
just the
people are
layout.
moving.
He knows exactly when
it's
somebody's
the Frogger
coming after
thing.
him. Yeah, exactly. It's like he's God. It's like he's looking at it from overhead.
And I guess we're not yet. Everything has security cameras. Although there probably are security cameras in that building.
I think some of the success of keeping you engaged in this movie and maybe even just this movie being as memorable as it is that we successfully set up Morpheus as this mysterious, larger-than-life figure, and then when we meet him, he lives up to it. Mm-hmm. If that doesn't work, this is not anything like as fun of an experience.
Well, it's interesting because this doesn't make Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is already a star.
Yes.
And
he's already an action star.
And he actually kind of peters out after the Matrix movies. Like, he goes on...
For a little bit.
I mean, he had life stuff. Or he was still doing movies, but, like, it's not like Constantine was a big movie.
No, you're right. This was, like, the apex of his career, and then he's not doing as much.
And now he's the biggest movie star in the world.
And now he's got a second apex, yeah.
And
that phone drop never looked great.
Obviously, Smith gets huge after this. Well, huge is a weird word. Hugo Weaving gets...
He starts
Lord
doing
of
a lot
the Rings.
Yes, but also he does a lot of art house stuff.
Mm-hmm. But, like, people know who he is after this movie.
Yes,
and Lawrence Fishburne has been in things, but, like, this is the apex of Lawrence Fishburne's popularity, I think. He's actually working more now. But I think this is, like, the height of him as a celebrity.
Okay, so can I talk about this for a minute?
Yeah.
We've got the multiple screens zooming in on Neo in this back room with the agents, and we use those screens again in Reloaded. And there's no context here at all for what you're actually looking at. And it's kind of, it's intriguing because when you move past the screens, it's like we moved from a world into another world. Like, that's what it looks like. But, like, we're not told what that is. We're not given any context.
I always assumed it was security footage.
Yeah, me too. But what's weird about it is the way we do, like a computer glitch shift kind of thing through it. So then you wonder if there's, like, more to it than that. And then Reloaded overthinks it and decides that indeed it is something. And
I don't think that computer shift thing is, like, a weird thing. That's what happens with a TV. Like, TVs do that thing. It's like, not even I don't know what to describe that as, but, like, that makes sense to me visually.
Yeah, but then, like, they've got the sound effect that's part of whenever somebody goes into the Matrix, right? Mm-hmm. It's like a world transitioning transition.
It would,
and I think it's
even
just
better
a cool
setup
transition
for the Matrix within the Matrix, which
exactly, yeah.
But also, I guess I never thought about, because, like, in the 80s, specifically in the 80s, but in the 90s as well, like, bad guys have a bunch of TVs, they're all playing the same thing. I'm very familiar with that iconography. And so I was like, oh, it's a security room with TVs all tuned to the same security
Well, yeah,
room.
and if they just showed that, but it's the fact that they zoom in on it and then you go through the screen
it's just
into
a cool
this,
transition, right?
and I think that's all it's supposed to be.
Or it's suddenly hinting that you're in a virtual world, right?
Yes.
Like, that's what
Then I
think
the sequel decided it was something. Because I think in the
Is that supposed to be the architect?
I think it's supposed to be the architect, yeah.
That's dumb.
It is.
I mean,
but I think that's what it's supposed to be,
okay.
and I just wanted to point that out. I think Trinity has some really subtle Matrix powers that are never talked about. When they're in the rave a few scenes ago, and she's whispering to Neo, and he can hear her, and there's that really super loud music, she's using Matrix superpowers. There's no way he could hear her.
Well, I've never been in the rave, and the Wachowskis have, so, like, maybe if you whisper right into somebody's ear, they can hear you.
Oh, okay, but it was so loud, though. Where, like, she has to, like, yell, and then she's just whispering to him, and somehow you can hear her.
But she's right up against.
Oh, okay.
This is also the height of the, like, government spooks. Like we're post X. Well, we're in X-Files,
yeah.
but, like, the glasses and the suit and tie.
We're in the downfall of X-Files,
which is the. Are we there yet?
Yeah, this is 99.
When does the movie come out?
97, 98?
Okay,
no, 90,
so yeah,
no, like
yeah.
96.
Okay, okay, yeah, we're definitely in the downfall.
X-Files is done by 01, 02, isn't it?
I want to say it's done in 01, because I know Lone Gunman comes out in 01.
Yeah, did they do that spin-off after the show, or
no,
it's
still before
on?
the show, because they have an unofficial ending and an unofficial finale in season 9. But the agent thing is very prevalent in pop culture right now. Like, it's a thing that dates back to the 50s. The whole Men in Black thing, and Men in Black has come out by now.
Well, yeah, 3 years.
So we're playing into things that are very prevalent in pop culture right now, and it just, I think, happens to work out that, like, we see them and we make connections in our brain, which might not have happened in 1970.
Yeah, good call.
Like, we don't need to know things about these Men in Black because we know what the Men in Black are.
So this is, of course, a really unsettling, visceral scene. I've always loved it. It freaked me out when I first saw it because I hadn't really seen anything like this. And
was it the mouth or is it the thing in the belly button, or is it both?
I think the mouth made this easier because the mouth was already so unsettling that this is not as unnerving as it would be by itself.
See, the mouth doesn't bother me, but this does. Although now I'm just looking at how terrible that CGI is integrated with that is not on his body, which is funny because I thought the mouth looked great.
Okay, so I have questions. Belly buttons aren't holes.
We also never use this again. It's a virtual world.
But why does it have to go through the belly button then? Couldn't it go through anywhere? Couldn't it just go through your chest? Why
does it
doesn't
want
it
you
treats
to
the belly
know
button
that
like
you're
it's a hole.
Like you're completely in a virtual world. Like I
you're
think in that panic moment, like you're not thinking about it. And belly buttons are holes, right? Like they can be. Like their umbilical, the umbilical cord. Like you could make a hole.
I guess so. Maybe that's why they do it that way.
And they already sealed his mouth, which still looks good. The spider thing doesn't look great, but we also don't get that kind of stuff in the sequels. There was a major component of this movie that I think is a huge mistake in the sequels that we'll get to when we get there, to not have, because it's so iconic. But we don't get cool, like, weird tech like that.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those movies that
it's kind of it's kind of fun because they can bring in like futuristic tech that they've built already. So a lot of what they use is just period stuff, but they can actually bring in stuff from the future.
I think this is one of those movies that, like, the elements of it that were popular kind of crystallized, and even the Wachowskis forgot about everything else in the movie. It's one of those.
That's exactly right.
Because there's a lot of movies like that, especially series, and even comic books, where, like, you go back to, the early stuff, and you're like, oh, there's a bunch of other stuff here that we just never bring up again. And I think The Matrix has some of that stuff.
There's a line in the previous scene that I got to bring up real quick because it cracks me up, and I cannot tell how exactly I'm supposed to read it, where Smith breaks down the two sides to Neo's life, and he says there's the hacker side, and there's the like upstanding citizen side that helps his landlady with his garbage. One of these has a future, the other does not. Which one is he taught? Which one has a future? Because he wouldn't even be coming to you if you weren't a super brilliant hacker guy. But it sounds like, in the context of what he's saying, that he wants that he wants Neo to cooperate and be an upstanding citizen, and then, like, after all of this, he can, like, go his merry way. And I don't know. It makes it sound like we don't want you to do illegal things after this. Not like he's actually going to care, because he's not actually a government agent, he's Smith. But you know what I mean? Like the way he talks to Neo, it's like the side that has a future is the upstanding citizen side, but it's not. It's the hacker side. So it's weird.
No, it's the upstanding citizen side. Because then he'll stop doing the hacker stuff.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because he's supposed to, like at that point, he's still a government agent. Like, just
right.
Stop doing illegal things. Like, that is the thing that has the future. You'll go back. And also, that won't lead you to Morpheus, which won't lead you out of the Matrix. Like, no, they want him to stay complacent.
That's true. No, you're right. Because they're not actually. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that right. They're not asking him to do hacker stuff.
Yeah, no, they just want him to stop,
to just go find,
so that he won't get free of the Matrix.
Well, yeah.
You don't have this kind of stuff either.
Well, that's one of the big things I thought you were talking about.
Well, yeah, I am, but I'd forgotten it was such an elaborate machine. Do you know the thing about Switch?
Look, and then that's the genesis of both the Terminator and the Borg Queen. See, that's gonna turn into the Borg Queen.
Do you know the thing about Switch and what she was supposed to be, and the studio wouldn't let them?
Huh.
So Switch, I can't remember which side it was supposed to be, but she is supposed to be one gender in the Matrix and a different gender in the real world.
There's a whole period now of Spawn comics that look exactly like this building. We're just perpetually, all we do is checkered floors, just like this building. Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry, what was I?
Switch is supposed to be one gender in the Matrix and one gender in the real world. So it would either be a woman in the real world and a man in the Matrix, or vice versa. I forget which it was.
Because you imagine your idealized self?
No.
Oh.
Because the computer doesn't care about you and makes mistakes. Remember, the Wachowskis both gender flip, and her name is Switch.
Well, no, I know that, but I thought the idea was maybe like she is a different gender when she's in the Matrix because that's what she would rather be.
No, I think it's the other way. I think it's creating the explanation for feeling like you're in the wrong body.
Oh.
Because that's the brilliant thing about the Matrix is everyone thinks the world feels wrong.
Yeah.
And it's an explanation for that. So that would be that you're a woman but you feel like a man. Well, it turns out you really are, and there was some kind of mistake and you were put in the wrong body.
Yeah, and it's cool.
That's why
it would be cool to use the Matrix as an explanation for that, just like the deja vu thing, even though that's not what deja vu is.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that. But it's kind of but I always thought that was a cool idea. They just call it wrong.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I think that's interesting, and it's unfortunate they couldn't do that then.
Yeah.
I'm willing to put money on the fact that it will be in the sequels.
Yeah, I bet so.
Like they will revisit that idea in some way. And it's interesting because they hadn't gotten to that point yet. Maybe they had internally,
sure.
But they didn't. They weren't transitioning yet when they were making this movie. So I just think that's an interesting thing that they were already putting into.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes that name cool, but it also means that now it means nothing.
Now she's just androgynous.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, that
because
was
some
the
of the names
idea,
actually mean things.
They wouldn't
that name
let them,
doesn't mean anything.
1999. That was too much.
Yeah. Because I've always thought Cypher's name for what he ends up actually doing to them is really interesting.
I wish I had reread, or not reread, because I've only read the first couple issues, but I wish I'd read The Invisibles before we did this.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you'd ever gone through that.
Remember I used to have that giant book that I sold you?
Yeah, I know. I just didn't know if you read it.
I read the first couple issues. It was impossible to read. It was literally too large to read. And so I've only read like the first 6 issues or so, but I do know the iconography that this steals from it, let alone like the actual ideas itself.
So like he's explaining what the Matrix is, and it's a pretty decent explanation. I mean, it's not everything. It's hard to wrap your mind around if you live in it, of course. Okay, so that line cracks me up because I don't see Neo as a guy that does either of those things, going to church or doing his taxes.
But I do like the idea that like most people like pay their tax. I'm like, this is wrong. Like I can't explain to you articulately what's wrong about this, but this is wrong.
And then the religion thing. You go to church and like
you don't feel anything.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I now like that line better, but it has to be a proverbially you, because that guy is not doing those things. But that's great, because then that makes those not arbitrary choices.
No,
for what he's saying. It's not like, you know, when you go to the bathroom, when you walk up a staircase, like these are things.
When you go to the bathroom after Taco Bell, it feels wrong.
These are times when reality feels like it can't possibly be.
Well, and that's the thing that when I was younger, I latched onto the most about this movie. Like more so than like all of the cyberpunk stuff and like even the action. That is clearly a computer generated shot or like artificially enhanced. Like that is not in his glasses.
It still looks good though.
It does, but like in 1999, I wouldn't have noticed that. Like just we've gotten better at it. So like I'm like, oh, that is clearly.
Yeah, that's a special effect.
That's a special effect. But no, that's the idea that I latched onto the most was because I think the ideal time to watch this is as a teenager, like between like 14 and 19, which is also the ideal time to watch Fight Club. Is the idea that like the world feels wrong and there's a reason for it. That is such a great way, because you can do this movie and not have that. Like this can just be a weird Matrix world. It is that idea that makes you walk out of the theater and go, maybe I'm in the Matrix. Yeah, and that's what you're supposed to feel, because the world does feel wrong. There are things that don't make sense and just don't feel right. And I think that's such a great That was a great way to... Hey, it's Joey Pants. as such a great way to get people into this. Because people always talk about, like, especially, like, reading the script, and even, like, people after they saw the movies, like, I can't explain it, like, I don't know what, like people were baffled by this.
What is resonating?
Yeah. I think what connects with this movie on an emotional level, where it's not just a bunch of science fiction gobbledygook, is that idea above all others, is there is a reason that life feels wrong.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that's brilliant.
And it's that why am I here question, and how did like life form in the first place? And the Matrix doesn't answer that, because of course once you find out that the Matrix was built by robots, there's a real world, and there's still that question of how did all of that come to be.
Now, The Invisibles does answer that.
But I like the idea of like being in a world where your human perception is so limited that there's got to be more than what than what you can see. And
this is one of the big things they steal from Invisibles. Reportedly, is the mirror goop that covers you. That is like panel for panel The Invisibles.
I feel like there's a cover that does that in that series, but maybe I'm wrong.
You might be right. I'm not sure. So I was trying to cut you off. I just wanted to mention it while it was there.
There are dated effects in this that were still so brilliant in their day. I still appreciate them.
Like, this doesn't look amazing, but like, it doesn't look terrible.
No, yeah.
If this came out today, I would be like, oh, that's not great.
But it still might do it better than some other, cheaper movies would.
What's interesting is a lot of it isn't really the effect itself as much as it is the, I don't know what you'd call that, layering, like the interaction with the physical space around it. Like, that's the problem with the spider thing. The spider thing doesn't look bad. It's the spider thing sitting on Neo that looks bad.
That you just don't buy the interaction.
But this doesn't look terrible, but also, like, I like these kinds of special effects. Like, I still watch things that look like this and have special effects like this. Like, it doesn't... If I wasn't as familiar with 80s and 90s movies, like, maybe this would look much worse to me.
Yeah, I don't have a good sense of perspective on that. And
like, it just kind of looks like The Matrix.
Just because I've been going back and, to this for so long.
And this is not a movie I go back to a lot. And that more has to do with the sequels. Like, whenever I watch this movie, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a really good movie. Like, I don't forget that it's a really good movie, but it is tainted for me. Like, in the same way that some people, like, kind of can't go back to the original trilogy because of the prequels. Like... I don't know. It has affected me. Like, this is a movie that I often talk about being really good that was ruined by sequels, but because of those sequels, like, I don't tend to actually go back to it itself that much.
I am almost the opposite. Like, I like The Matrix so much.
Well, you watch all three.
Regardless of the other two movies not being great, I always watch them, or I often watch them.
You watch the three of them together.
I do. Although the last few times I've gone back to The Matrix, I've not watched the sequels.
You didn't make DJ watch Reloaded and
no, but I wanna. We just didn't have time.
Well, not everyone has 18 hours. This looks great.
Now I know that there are things that specifically this scene is ripping off, and some of it's Ghost in the Shell.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if The Invisibles also does some of this stuff, but I've been told that it does, but I haven't read it.
I think it does.
So.
Well, the big difference between The Invisibles and The Matrix is it's not robots. They're other dimensional bug things. But I couldn't tell you what they are because I haven't read far enough. I just know the broad brushstrokes of what that series is about.
Okay.
But this might be in The Invisibles. I'm not positive. And I'm curious if the thing that I latch onto about the world not feeling right is in The Invisibles, because that's a very Grant Morrison idea.
Yeah.
I guess I should say for people listening to this that don't know, The Invisibles is a comic book series that Grant Morrison wrote in the 90s that is reportedly this film rips off a lot. Morrison says it for sure does. So that's kind of like a...
The Claw!
That's kind of like... reported UFO sightings, and I'm wondering if they're doing something with that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That is kind of an X-Files shot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in this that you said that.
But yes.
I'm seeing some X-Files in this.
But so The Invisibles is a comic that this apparently rips off. Morrison says it absolutely for sure rips it off. But he's like, but it's a really good movie, and so like I don't care enough to like press charges.
I've heard rumors that they passed around that comic on set.
That comes from Morrison, and he said he was told by people in the production they were passing around the comic on set and saying, make it look like this. The premise is very similar, except for it's still science fiction, but like it's technological versus a more like ethereal, multi-dimensional kind of a thing. I want to say the main character, from what I remember of what I read, is much younger than Neo. Like, he's more like a teenager. And there's certain major images that are stolen from it that I will point out as we go through, because I'm at least familiar with those.
Yeah, and a lot of the tentpoles that inspired this, that it just straight up kind of stole from, are not big enough that the general populace would have noticed. So this like hit a lot of people as really original, and their minds were blown just by the basic concept of this, because they hadn't seen it in anything. But a lot of the stuff here is not the first time you see it, but I think it has kind of its own like unique flavor for the most part.
Well, and it's interesting because Ghost in the Shell is the other big thing people throw around.
Right.
And I think that's kind of bogus. Like,
oh, really?
there is some visual stuff that they take from Ghost in the Shell, but the things they're taking from Ghost in the Shell are not the ideas, it's aesthetic stuff.
No, certainly not.
And
yeah.
every artist does that. Like, there's some John Woo stuff in this, too.
Right.
Like,
but if Invisibles is pretty much the same story with an interdimensional thing, then that's maybe a problem.
Yeah, that's a much bigger problem than... Like, it kind of looks like Ghost in the Shell, which is the thing they were saying. They didn't say Ghost in the Shell specifically, I don't think. But they did say, like, they want it to look like an anime.
Yes.
Anime was something different in the 90s than what it's thought of now. Like, when they're saying that, they're talking about Ghost in the Shell, Akira. I don't think Cowboy Bebop's out yet, but that grimier, grittier kind of a... And a lot of cyberpunk stuff is an anime right then. So it's... And to me... I think you're just kind of being pretentious and ill-informed when you're like, well, I won't watch The Matrix, it's just Ghost in the Shell. I'm like, but it's not just Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, because we watched Ghost in the Shell, and I'd never seen it, and I was like, well, it's not The Matrix. Like,
no, like, there's some visual similarities, but there's visual similarities between a lot of things. Like, well, and there was a big debate about that with things like Kill Bill, or most of Tarantino's films, where, like, if you know your stuff really well,
Kill Bill is... influences are.
Not just in influences. Kill Bill is a collection of recreated scenes.
Oh, really?
And there's people that, and there's a big discussion about, like, is that artistic? Is that not? Like, what is the line between inspiration and ripping off? And I think, at least on the Ghost in the Shell side, like, this is very clearly inspiration, not a ripoff. I'm not familiar enough with the Invisibles to make a declarative statement on that, but I don't think this rips off Ghost in the Shell or Akira. I think it's inspired by it. And I think those are two different things.
I'm going to argue that if anime had been as popular as it is in a few years after this, and also that The Matrix probably has something to do with that becoming as big as it does, it probably doesn't feel quite as original and unusual in tone and aesthetic and atmosphere to as many people as it does. Like, I think in '99 this presents a somewhat like kind of anime style and anime inspired style to a lot of people that had not seen anything like that. And then I wonder how much that got a lot of kids into anime.
Well, I don't know, because
this movie is not as mind blowing in Japan. Like in '99,
but I assume they love it.
They probably do. But I'm just saying, like, this is
not as mind blowing.
This is a weird movie in '99.
But the animes that get big here are not those ones.
We didn't make movies like this yet.
No.
And Japan was making this kind of thing for a long time before this. And
we were making this stuff too, just in prose. We weren't doing.
That's what I'm saying. Is that in movies you never saw anything like this. Now they weren't doing it in live action.
No, they didn't have the budget. They still don't have the budget.
They try sometime.
But when anime does hit big, which is actually right around this time, like that's Dragon Ball Z and Gundam and all that stuff, the animes that get super popular, like mainstream popular, are not the things that this is drawing from.
No, it's
like
not
Ghost in
Akira,
the Shell is huge, and so is Akira. But like at this point, I think for a lot of people newer to anime, that's like Citizen Kane. Like it's the thing that they know is important, but they don't actually go and watch.
I would really like to know what Morpheus's obsession with this chair design is. I just want to know where he got that. I want to know why he loves this chair so much.
Is it just like a familiar link? Like, look, this is that thing you saw before, and now I'm showing it to you again.
Yeah, no, that's what it is, but it's just I associate it with so much with we do what?
The go into the TV, and it was doing the color lines. So that clearly is not intended to be...
Well, no, but we didn't zoom right into it, and now we're in it.
No, but it started doing the color separation.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about specifically going through it and that sound effect.
I thought... But we do it here.
We do it here, yeah, exactly. And so then I guess that's just a cool transition because, like, we're not actually from one world to another. We're just in the same computer program showing you something different. But I think, like... I don't know, that is just for the audience's effect, but, like, you know, Morpheus is just, like, showing us what the real world looks like now.
I don't know.
And so it's supposed to be like a transition from the Matrix to the real world?
I don't know about all the philosophy stuff with this movie and the things that they stole or misunderstood or misrepresented or whatever. Like, I'm not super well read on that. I do know that the desert of the real is an actual philosophical concept that the guy who came up with it apparently... like, laughed in the theater when he heard it, really because funny. It was so literal just and inaccurate.
Absurd and not anything like what he was talking about?
Yes, and I think that's hilarious. So, this is the big iconic thing from this movie that I think it hurts the sequels to not have. I think... as iconic as anything else in this movie is the giant white room that can create things. Specifically later when we get the rows of guns, we never go back here in the sequels.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know why. Like, it's such an iconic piece of this movie. Like, it was in all the trailers, especially like the rows of guns and all that. Like, it's so weird that they didn't put those in the sequels because I think that's as memorable. Like, I think that was... as digested by the pop culture as anything else in this movie was that visual of the pure white room.
So this is the big thing that just kind of breaks the whole world of this movie for me, and it's a lot of fun to talk about, and that's that if people are grown now, then how in the Matrix do they have parents, and what are their parents, and what is being born in the Matrix?
So
what is birth?
What I think it is that they are clones, but they are clones taken from the DNA of two people. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, it must be.
But that also means that, unfortunately, for women,
much more
they are being put
than
through the pain of childbirth, but not actually having to do it.
Yeah.
Which is just cruel.
That's true. And then a thing that breaks my brain is how much of what you experience in the Matrix actually physically affects your body. Like, if you get punched in the face or you hit the ground hard, in the real world, you get blood in your mouth. How far does that extend, right? Like, because DJ and I talked about this, and he was like, well, your muscles shouldn't atrophy because you've never actually used muscles. So, like...
Yeah, and I've heard that as a criticism that people complain about that I think is not fair.
But what I'm thinking
is like, it's taking it too far for a movie premise. Is the idea that
Neo
can stand up and walk around. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want a movie where I have to spend 20 minutes with him learning to walk.
But a lot of this movie is about mind over matter. It's about what your mind makes real versus what is actually truly real, and where the line is, and if it even matters if something is real or not. If your brain thinks it's real, like Morpheus says, it makes it real, and so for you it is. If you can believe that you hit your teeth hard enough for blood to come in your mouth, like, why specifically is that the place where you're getting injured? When that's just because that's where in the Matrix you got injured? Is it possible that if you make yourself believe that you worked out your muscles in the Matrix, your muscles got worked out in real life.
Well, I mean...
How's that going too far if injuries work that way?
We do have, what is that called? The placebo.
Yeah.
And then there's also a reverse placebo. I forget what that's called. It's like an anti-placebo. So the idea that your brain believes...
And like psychosomatic stuff.
Yes, because it's the sugar pill thing where, like, if we give you a sugar pill and we tell you it will make your cancer feel better, if you genuinely believe that, your symptoms will alleviate.
Yeah.
But the reverse is true as well.
Yeah.
If someone tells you you have cancer, it's that what's the thing where you think you have all the diseases? If someone tells you you have cancer,
yeah,
and you believe that, you will start exhibiting symptoms of cancer, or at least things you believe are symptoms of cancer. The blood in the mouth is weird because, first of all, that's kind of an anime trope, but it's also just a trope of fiction in general.
Yeah.
Blood in the mouth tells you things like you're hurting. So, like, anime specifically has a trope that people make fun of where, like, oftentimes people have an ill-defined disease that just results in, like, either spitting up blood or, like, blood running down your mouth.
But in that particular case, he hit his head there.
Yeah, but we don't get, like, he doesn't have bruises later. Like, I feel like the blood in the mouth is, like, shorthand to the audience.
Yeah, but I think we're more consistent with it than you're letting on. Because when he's fighting Smith toward the end, and
I guess
he's getting hit a bunch of times, his body's shaking in exactly the places where he's getting hit.
You're right. He's having a neurological
When Morpheus
reaction.
says your mind makes it, or whoever it is that says that, your mind makes it real, I think Morpheus says that, then I think the movie literally is saying everything.
Mm-hmm.
Makes everything real. But, like, you can't take that too far because it's not like you don't have to eat. The machines still have to feed you intravenously.
Mm-hmm.
So, like...
Well, but that's like, I don't know, I feel like that's another level.
Yeah, because then, like, there are resources you need. Like,
yeah.
There are, nutrients.
It doesn't matter how much you believe. Now, you might be able to last longer than you normally would be able to.
Because you think you had water, or you think you had food.
But that can only go so far.
Right.
I like Tank a lot.
Yeah, you too.
He's not in the sequels because the actor's agent wanted to hold out for more money, and they're like, yeah, we don't need you. No one remembers you.
I always forget if he gets killed or not, but he doesn't.
He dies in between movies.
Yeah, but what's weird is he almost dies in this, and then it's weird that he doesn't come back.
But he is supposed to be in the sequels.
I didn't know the reason.
And his agent was just like, well, they're not going to make a Matrix movie without Tank. And yes.
And so he's replaced with the guy from Lost.
And I don't know if I ever see this actor again.
I don't remember him in anything. So you've got on the computer monitor a few other kinds of martial arts that he learns besides kung fu, and I've always wished that and then it's gonna be drunken boxing, and I've always wanted the line to be, I know drunken boxing.
Interesting fun
It'd be great
fact
if that whole scene with Morpheus was drunken boxing and not kung fu.
Interesting fun fact about drunken boxing. While that is a historical martial art that exists, it's not something that was ever really recorded in the way that other martial arts were.
Oh, okay.
So if anyone learns drunken boxing now, it is a martial art that was basically created by Jackie Chan. Like, he took he took the bits and pieces that we knew about drunken boxing historically, and he put like, Jackie Chan is the frog DNA to the dinosaur DNA of drunken boxing.
That's awesome.
Jackie Chan makes it into an actual practicable, learnable martial art. For his film Drunken Master.
So these guys sell this scene really well. It is, hard enough to make an audience believe that you're an expert in a martial art that you just learned 6 seconds ago. But I think even harder to make an audience believe, and I realize that some of this is stuntmen and some of this is special effects, but, like, Morpheus has to really sell, like, I know that I'm not in the real world, and so I can break the laws of physics. As an actor, I don't think that's easy.
No.
And I think they both do a really, really
Only
good job
one
with that.
other man was able to pull it off, and it's Michael Jordan in Space Jam.
That's hilarious.
One of the things that I really like about this movie, I'm not like an expert martial artist, so I could be wrong, but it's how I've always seen it. I like how not smooth their choreography is. It has always felt stiff to me.
Yeah.
In a way of someone that didn't learn martial arts. They know martial arts.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's how the choreography has always felt to me. Is it's not fluid like water, like Bruce Lee describes. It's much more herky-jerky. But I feel like that's an intentional choice.
It's also really nice just to have because, like, yeah, this is a really heightened movie with a wild premise, and there's gimmies that you have to just let it have, like you said. But it is really nice to have internal logic for why so much Hollywood physics. Like, every time it does something just, like, really fun and gimmicky, like, you throw somebody up against a board and the board breaks, but they're fine, you can't argue with it in The Matrix.
Well, I would also argue this is not actually providing explanation for Hollywood physics, it's for Hong Kong physics.
Well, sure.
It is trying to present a reason that wire fu is acceptable.
Yeah, okay, that's fair in the actions, in the fight scenes, but you can give it that with any kind of scene in this. You know what I mean? Like car chases, anything.
It lets them be able to do whatever they want.
Yeah. As long as the people involved, someone involved knows they're in the Matrix.
The only other thing that has a premise like that, or utilizes a premise like that I can think of is Inception, where they do it with the dream stuff. Where they can do, and it doesn't go. It doesn't go as like over the top as this, but they do some insane world things because they know they're in a dream.
I think it also helps that it's a really stylized world, even in the real world. So, like, this is not a realistic real world, even though there's a fake world inside of it. But it's very consistent, I think, in the internal logic and the tone of it. So, like, it does silly stuff, like. Let's just break this down and say this is a melodrama, and it knows it's a melodrama, and we're dealing with primarily kind of archetypal characters. Like, they're very memorable characters, and I like them, and they don't feel like like one-dimensional stand-ins. Like, I've seen this character 1,000 times before, but they are two-dimensional. They're they're certainly not like we don't have complex character studies in the Matrix, but so. It's able to get away with stuff like whenever somebody has a really dramatic line, lightning strikes and thunder rumbles. This movie gets away with stuff like that. And yeah, we're usually in the Matrix when that happens, but it's not like Morpheus is like pressing a button that makes that happen. That is still like real world physics stuff, right? That's still just weird. Like, you could, and the beauty of it is you can do that kind of thing in the stylized real world too.
Stop trying to hit me and hit me is a line I always remember with
Yes.
the movie. I think it's a wonderful line.
It's great.
This is the other scene.
And of course, the big one everybody always remembers is that air you're breathing now,
Yeah.
which is also a wonderful line. The script is filled with
meme now.
really silly stuff, and we'll talk about some of that. But
This is another scene that is stolen from The Invisibles.
Oh, really?
Also, Morpheus is stolen from The Invisibles. Like,
Really?
there is a he's white because he's Grant Morrison. I mean, the character is visually based on Grant Morrison.
Okay.
He's called King Mob.
So like the
But he is a bald guy with the sunglasses like that, who wears a long trench coat and is the mentor figure.
And of course, we haven't talked about how just like blatantly, completely 90s this is.
Well, so something I wanted to bring up, but this in particular is the going down into the ground and then it kicks you back up.
This is where the blood's going to happen, by the way.
This is Invisibles.
Oh, really?
Yes. But
I don't know why you'd program it like that. I've always wondered that.
So that it hurts you.
Yeah. Like, why don't you just make the whole road
Well, it's so
made
you
of
learn a
Jello?
lesson, right?
Oh, okay. That's probably what that is. Yeah.
It's
So
like
that
it's
he
not
can
going
come
to
out
kill
and be-
you, but
yeah.
just to remind you, or just so you know,
You have
it
to
does
have
hurt if
consequences.
it's in the real Matrix, it's gonna hurt. But with the martial arts thing, this is kind of the apex of that subculture coming to the mainstream.
But see, like, look, I don't think this is just generic blood in the mouth. Like,
Maybe
that
he
feels
bit his
like
tongue?
that feels like specifically that injury. But also, before he does that, he's like super stiff, like he just had a fall like that.
But is it blood in the mouth? Like, because his whole body hits? Is it like from the stomach? Like, is he just coughing up blood? Maybe.
Or did he just bite his tongue, like you said? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's not very much blood. But yeah, I don't want to belabor that one thing a lot, but that's indicative of a larger question.
But with the martial arts thing, I think this is something that was a subgenre and a niche that this is because we had things before this that were semi-big. Like John Woo's stuff was kind of big over here. Jet Li is becoming a name. But that's all subgenre
Well,
stuff.
yeah, and he'll
like,
make a
that's
movie just a
all-
couple years after this called
The One.
The One.
which is a good movie as far as I recall. I'm sure it's not,
couldn't
but
get
I
through it.
remember it being good.
I tried. I couldn't watch it.
But well, and that's Jet Li meets the Matrix.
That's exactly
But
right. Yeah.
this is kind of
I just had a hard time with the production values. I couldn't take it seriously.
one I haven't seen it since 2000.
Yeah.
But this is kind of the apex of this and Kill Bill are martial arts movies coming to the mainstream forefront, and then they will go away again. Well, and I guess Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was also pretty big, but like we had a very brief period where like the stuff that had been building from the 70s to the 80s and 90s, where like martial arts is getting popular. This is the first big gasp of it hitting the mainstream, and then we'll just use martial arts choreography in action films, but we won't make any more martial arts movies.
The music in this scene, by the way, is clubbed to death. This is the theme from The Matrix.
Oh, okay.
And I always kind of forget where it is in this because it's so subtly used. Like, it's really just the initial drum beat of that track, but it's a song I go back to and listen to a lot. I put it in a lot of playlists.
Those are all frozen.
Yes.
They are not people standing.
No, and that's what it should be. Well, first of all, you have to do it that way so you can get doves and stuff.
Yes.
But secondly...
Well, but you could have done it with people and just froze the dove.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
But it would have been, I think, a mistake to do it that way. DJ and I also talked about that, where he was like, oh, this isn't like in X2 where it's actually people standing. Well, in X2, it should be people standing because it's a guy that has frozen them, but this is a computer
This is like
program.
hitting pause on your
He
on
has
your TV.
frozen the whole program. It should look like this.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a mistake to do it the other way. It should look like they're just standing on a green screen right now. Mm-hmm. Basically. And we also have done this kind of thing in Star Trek with the holodeck a lot, so like I'm kind of used to seeing this.
I cannot unsee the glasses thing.
Yeah,
Where I'm like, oh, we've just gotten better at that effect now. Like I'm very aware of it, and that's weird. I never thought about it before until we were watching it right now.
yeah. Well, for a minute I thought they were using just a still image of Neo in his glasses,
No,
but he
he moves
actually
his
does
head.
move a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good. A lot of attention to detail.
Also, the glasses always drove me crazy as someone that wears glasses.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, why do I have to have these legs? Like, can you buy just like the nose clip-ons? They're doing martial arts in them. They seem pretty sturdy. You can get nose clip-ons,
That's
but they're
great.
not. You can't like run in them.
They're
or,
not.
like,
They're not
fight
as
in
good
them.
as
Yeah.
what Morpheus seems to have.
You know, I'd be okay if like my shirt ripped while I had it, and like we don't have any others. But did you have to start me with a ripped shirt?
The just figuring out how to organize the shooting and stuff, like it must have been a logistical nightmare with this movie because Keanu Reeves has to have like different haircuts for different scenes and
Yeah. Should also note that this is where he meets the two guys that will do John Wick.
Oh,
who are
yeah.
both choreographers and work as his stunt. I don't know if they work as a stuntman in this one. It might not be the sequels, but they do work on this movie. This is where Keanu Reeves meets them.
I think it
Is
was...
that a beryllium sphere?
It does look like a beryllium sphere. I think it was really smart structurally to do this movie as traditionally as it does it, where you have an Eisen character.
Well, it's a hero's journey.
Yes, exactly. Who doesn't? I mean, it's Star Wars. It's the Odyssey. It's everything. Where he doesn't. And I think that's one of those things that like resonates with people and people recognize it, but they don't articulate it. And I don't think this movie is as big and as popular if it isn't as traditional that way. Partly because this is such a especially in '99 like complex and kind of potentially convoluted idea that you could have really confused an audience really quickly, which is the mistake that like Jupiter Ascending makes. Like these guys do stuff later that has that problem where there are some good ideas, but I cannot focus. I can't land on anything. I don't know. You're just throwing too much at me at once. And with this movie, because we're learning everything along with Neo, it doesn't feel like you're having your hand held and like the audience is being insulted. But it also isn't boring. It's kind of a superhero origin story. There's no way around that. Like, it has to be that.
But it also feels like a complete story. Like, if there were never sequels, I wouldn't be like...
No, and with the ending we have here, there shouldn't be. This does not... It's a superhero origin story in the sense that he learns what he's able to do, and he comes into his own, and he has the whole coming-of-age thing, and he has the hero's journey, and then at the end, he's basically wearing his costume and flying around. But there are no more stories to tell. Mm-hmm. At least... Maybe in the universe there are.
Well,
but at least with this guy, it's I'm going to go tear down the system, and that does not sound like an interesting thing to watch happen.
I think that could be an interesting movie. It's just a very different movie, right? Like,
yeah.
Like now you're writing a narrative about a god character.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing is that I don't see how he really has any opposition after that. If he's able to take care of Smith and the other agents the way he does, and then we're told earlier that by Morpheus that there was a man born inside that could remake the Matrix in his image, and you are also that guy. Okay,
well, then the sequel has to be a character.
So the next thing, that's all it could be, because the next thing he does is he just remakes the Matrix in his like.
Did you have the Matrix?
I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe
screensaver?
there could. Yes, I did. I absolutely did that. Yeah.
Everybody did.
But I think you're right. Like maybe there could be a story there, but it's not an action movie. It's not one of these.
Well, I think it still could be an action movie, but it's closer to the end of Revolutions. It is a like reality warping, like Neo can pick up buildings with his mind and hurl them at things.
Well, and I think the next movie should open with everybody knows they're in the Matrix now. Or there's like rumors going around that we're not actually that our world is not the real world. That we live in a computer program.
I do appreciate the idea.
I don't like that there's still that status quo where nobody knows any of this is happening.
I do appreciate
that does not fit with this ending.
That the sequel suggests, where like Neo's going around like personally, person to person, like getting people out of the Matrix. Like he doesn't just jack everybody out at the same time. Like I like the idea he still. Because then you could actually play into a more biblical metaphor of he's walking around offering people the choice to get free.
But it doesn't. Yeah, but he should be doing it more publicly.
Yes,
it doesn't fit.
It should be more like Jesus. He should be walking around the Matrix.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. And he's got disciples.
So this scene does have the biggest plot hole in the movie.
Go ahead.
At the end, who plugged him in? Who pulls him out?
Yes. I forgot about that. You and I have had that conversation, and I never think about that when I watch this, but yeah. Oh my god.
Because we know someone has to put you in and out.
Yeah. And so if they let him go in here, what do they think he's doing? Because you never just go in the Matrix and mess around. You have to be on a mission.
Which makes me
And nobody ever goes in by themselves either, right?
Which makes me wonder if they think that if this might be a studio-mandated scene, where they thought the betrayal was too subtle and people wouldn't accept it, so they need to tell the audience early not to trust him. And the only thing,
and it sucks because I like
just
this scene.
I do too.
Like well, and the thing is, I think you need it to understand this guy's worldview, and because he's completely unsympathetic if you don't have the scene.
Mm-hmm.
He also, I think DJ might be right, maybe kind of turns into an exaggerated cartoon character, because it seems like he just has this like personal motivation of I I don't feel like I am any more free in the real world, and I'm sick of Morpheus telling me what to do, and everything sucks, and like, you know, you need the ignorance is bliss thing. He's got to say that, and he's got to have the thing with the stake, and like, what I'm saying is, he's got a point. Yeah. I don't know why he has to then go as far as to become a serial killer.
Mm-hmm. No.
But he's got a point.
I think what's great about him is that it makes complete sense. We're like, yeah, there is a real world, but it sucks.
Yeah.
And Joey Pants is an actor that has a tendency to go big. He's remarkably subtle in Daredevil, which is surprising because of
it's easy to
the
forget
movie
that's even the same actor.
that is.
Yeah, he's been Urich in that.
But he's a real big character actor. He's in a lot of 90s stuff.
Well, you're right. He does an over-the-top performance, but the script has him just murder everyone. And I don't know why he necessarily has to do that.
Isn't it because he has to do that for the deal? Like, that is the deal with the agents?
The deal is just give me the access codes. No, I don't have them. Okay, give me Morpheus. That's all he has to do.
Okay.
Now, it might be that he thinks that in order to stay in the Matrix and get what he was promised, he has to kill everyone. But he doesn't say why he's doing it. He just does it, and I was questioning, like...
I am bad now.
Or maybe, yeah, that's what it feels like. Maybe the problem isn't even that he kills everyone, it's that he doesn't seem to have any feelings about it. And you'd think he would.
I feel like the guy who plays Mouse has been cloned. Like, I feel like I have seen, not this actor, but like this person in a lot of movies.
That's funny.
Where, like, there's just a certain type of person that would cast a certain type of role, and there's a lot of them in Hollywood.
I've always loved the tasty wheat thing.
Yeah.
Always loved maybe that's why everything tastes like chicken. There's not a lot of that in this movie. It could have maybe used like 2 or 3 more fun examples like that, but I also like that it doesn't get super cutesy with it. We're like, we're going to use this to explain everything that's strange with the world, because then it would just feel like a stand-up routine. And it doesn't do that either. Like, we start to do that in the sequels where we try to explain, like, vampires and werewolves and things.
Which annoys me because they don't go far enough. These are the vampires, werewolves. They look like normal people with martial arts weapons, but they're vampire. This is where all the myths of ghosts and hauntings and vampires and werewolves come from. Okay, well, wouldn't that have been a cool action scene?
And now they're all standing around for a picture that nobody took.
Also, Switch is wearing white, which later will not be worn by any hero color characters.
That's true, because in Reloaded, we put the twins in white.
I also think this movie is aided significantly by the computer thing in the costumes not being dated.
See, so here's the thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because I mentioned earlier, like this movie is so super 90s, and we should talk about that. I agree with you, but I don't know that younger people do. I think a lot of kids sit down and watch this movie and go, oh, that's all really silly. We thought that was cool and edgy back then.
I don't
with the sunglasses
I think
and everything.
Blade will have that worse than this.
I hear people kind of make fun of that.
Weird.
Where it's like, this is... Because just because they're in a computer doesn't mean it's not silly, because the 90s thought this was cool. And all of these people, like they get to epitomize cool because... they're like in the real world,
they're the rebels and they're breaking through the status quo.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're the anti-establishment characters. They're all for, you know, independence and free will, and they're gonna, you know, you can't tell me what to do. But they're all dressing the same, and so the cool way they're all dressing, like.
Boy, I wish there was a statement being made with that. It's like the goth kids. It's like, I'm not like anyone else, but all my friends and I dress the same.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why do they all look the same?
I'm an individual, just like all my friends.
It should be more like an X-Men thing, where they all have completely different sorts of outfits.
I guess they do a little bit.
But I like it, too.
The trannies and they just all wear black.
But they all wear black, and they all wear sunglasses.
Except for Switch.
And they all wear leather. Or they mostly wear leather.
I am surprised they did not try to create an in-universe explanation for the sunglasses, because we know why they're wearing sunglasses. I'm surprised we don't create an in-universe explanation for why they're wearing sunglasses. Because the whole reason we do
that's a really good point.
The cool sunglasses thing is because oftentimes, especially with actors, you flinch when you fire guns, and that's not cool. Sunglasses covers your eyes flinching when you fire guns. That is why we do that. It just happens to also look cool.
I always thought thematically it was maybe like looking at this fake world through a lens.
maybe
it was like I'm not gonna look at it the way they want me to look at it. Like I'm looking through it through dark tinted glasses as opposed to
that's
rose
the way it is, man.
tinted. Yeah, exactly. That's what I always thought it was.
I don't know if there actually is a thematic thing, other than that it looks cool. Maybe you're right.
I don't know if that's intentional, but I think you can almost read it.
Yeah. You were talking about the like kids watching this thing.
Yeah.
Which I also think, with the leather and all of that, I feel like that stuff's a lot less silly if you're not on the internet, right? Like, it's only silly because the internet's told you it's silly. In a vacuum, you would not look, not in this movie.
Well,
maybe in Blade, but not in this movie.
Okay, you're right to some degree, but I think some people still might think it's kind of silly just because they don't see it all the time. Like, when I was a kid, this was thought of as, like, a cool look.
And this didn't last long, right? Like, it's like 98 to 2001 is our leather period, and then we very quickly stopped doing that.
That's true, but a lot of really major important things used it right then.
And then Underworld
so it felt like
still
it lingered
uses it
longer.
afterwards.
Underworld still thinks like, well, because Underworld is vampires and werewolves and the Matrix.
Yeah, meets the Matrix, except it came out in like 2005. Like, I think the first Underworld is post all of the Matrix movies. And that was a big thing in that movie, is that that actress, I can't remember her name, Kate Beckinsale, does not wear sunglasses. They were like, we're not doing the sunglasses thing, so all of our actors have to learn not to flinch. That was a big thing, like, special effects-wise, is like, she doesn't flinch when she shoots guns. And that was like a thing.
So the There Is No Spoons kid is using like a bunch of regular spoons, but I want to imagine that he's constantly like taking off the Oracle because she's got like this whole collection of like collector spoons on the wall right behind Neo. I want to imagine that sometimes he's doing those spoons. He's like, I've told you 1,000 times, don't bend those spoons. He's like, there are no collector spoons.
They aren't bending.
It is only yourself.
I am surprised that this kid hasn't popped up on the internet where it's like, do you feel old now?
I've read interviews with him.
Okay.
About this, but yeah, he doesn't. I don't think he's in things.
Did he get? But he feels ripe for the picture next to picture where it's like, look what he looks. Look at what the Spoon Kid looks like now.
Yeah.
Did he get bullied in school?
Regular looking guy. I don't know.
Because that feels like a real easy, like, I'm punching you, like, there are no fists.
He didn't have nothing but positive things to say. He said it comes up all the time. He's still talking about the Matrix all the time. So yeah, like my question is that scene as memorable as it is because there is no spoon is just a great line, and it's like kind of the epitome of what the movie's about and the perception stuff. Or is it because of that kid's performance? Or is it both? Like,
Can you make
that scene wrong where people don't remember that as a tagline?
That seems like the kind of thing that, as long as you don't suck...
This is my favorite thing the Oracle says, is the bit about the vase, where she's like, if I hadn't said anything, you might not have broken it. And I love that. It's great.
Well, and that's the kind of, like, cyclical philosophy kind of a thing that's all throughout this movie. And the spoon thing is like that too. The spoon thing is the kind of philosophy thing that I think only works in the Matrix, and the fact that it's drawn from real philosophy bugs me, because it's that shadows on the wall thing where like people believe that we don't actually live in a real world, and reality is what you make it, which is kind of what the Matrix is drawing on, but it literalizes it.
Yeah, but the question is...
But there are people that actually believe that the spoon isn't real in the real world,
yeah,
and the problem with that is... am too literal of a thinker to buy into that.
Yeah, me too, like... I like the idea of levels of reality and the possibility of like your mind making things real to some degree and that sort of thing. But the problem is, you and I clearly both live in a reality where we both agree that's a microphone and we're watching the Matrix right now. And so if there is no real world and it's all just in our heads, then it's collectively created somehow.
Like, I believe to a certain degree in you create your own reality.
But there are subjective realities. You and I can see a different color.
If I believe that somebody at work hates me, that's true for me. That person hates me until I actually confront it.
But you can't get in their mind. You don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there are things that... I think you can project things onto the world that are real for you, at least until they're challenged. And I believe in
like you for me are a particular like kind of person, and I have a like an idea and a feeling.
And that
about
might not be who I am in my head.
But in your head, you might see yourself very differently.
Mm-hmm. And I think, but in your world, that is who I am.
Yeah, right.
And I think I believe in you create your own reality in that way.
Yes.
And the same way I believe that
and that is significant because that affects choice, and you do things differently than you would if
and we're seeing it drastically now with the news, right? Everyone has their own news. And we're also seeing
reality,
and we're also seeing it with pop culture, because it used to be like there were movies and there were TV shows, and everyone watched to some degree the same movies and the same TV shows. We all have the same baseline. Everything's fractured now because of streaming.
And so it feels more like we're living in separate realities.
Yeah, so like I can watch something, and in my circle, everyone's watched this. Everyone's seen this TV show. Everyone's seen this movie. But then I can talk to someone on the outside. It was pop culture whiplash going from my previous job to the job I currently have, because I went from a very geeky job where everyone that came into that store was at least on some level, aware of, and then moving to somewhere where they probably confused the Avengers with the Justice League. It's
and also everything is relative. So not just the different things that you've seen that nobody else has, but also things that you see as good or bad partly because of things you compare them to that other people haven't seen.
There's a friend I have that we would often discuss, like, has this made it to your internet? Because we lived on two very different internets. I'm like, no, this is a meme. Everyone's seen this. And they'd be like, well, maybe on your internet. And so I buy into that aspect of, to tie back into the movie, of that. I don't believe in the more ethereal version of that, which is kind of what this movie's taking off of, but I have no problem with it in this movie because it's a science fiction movie with an artificial
and because
world.
In the premise that is the case.
And I like taking ideas.
There is
I like taking abstract ideas like that and making them literal in a science fiction or fantasy context. I think that's actually really smart and cool.
It also goes into that psychosemetic thing, because if you believe a thing,
how good do you think that cookie is? Is it really good?
Or it tastes like chicken. Maybe it tastes like tasty weed. Yeah. But it's okay. So it's weird that I'm sorry. I have a bunch of things I want to say right now. First of all, one of my favorite things that Morpheus does is that just when he puts his glasses back on and looks at him, he's so cool all the time. And I like that he doesn't act like that in the real world. It's like I get to be this idealized version of myself, and because this he's not constantly being epitome of cool unless he's in the Matrix or even in the programs they make. He doesn't do the whole walk around with his arms folded behind his back unless he's in the Matrix. But there's something I was going to talk about.
It was about perception, reality, and the spoon, and
I'm sorry, I forget.
And literalizing philosophical concepts.
Yeah, well, and then right after there was something I was going to say about that scene, but I can't remember what it was.
I think of all the sunglasses, those are the ones I would.
Oh yeah, those are cool. Wear.
See, you think that means something? He just has an itch. But he can't get it because his hands are.
That's a good question. Yeah. Who knows? No, it's just in the Matrix he's making that face, and so now he's making that face.
Okay, so I have a question about the deja vu
cat. Yeah.
So this is not what deja vu is.
Right.
Deja vu is the. Well, okay.
It is and it isn't, right?
I have a question, I guess, but so the way it's presented is that a cat walks in, shakes, runs away. The cat walks in, shakes, runs away. And I've always viewed that as literal until this very moment, where there are two cats that walk by. And deja vu is the feeling that you've experienced something before.
Yeah.
For me personally, I guess we had the conversation about this one day. It's not the same for you. For me, deja vu is often a dream, or it feels like I have dreamt this. I'm pretty sure I have dreamt this. But it's the... Is it not literally two cats walk by? It's a film trying to express to you the feeling of deja vu. Is it not a literal shot? Is that possible?
No. It has to be because Neo describes it.
Oh yes, he says it, and then the
says there
same
was
cat
a cat,
walked by.
and then the same cat walked by, and then they say that's a deja vu.
Yes. Okay.
Deja vu is when you feel like you've been in the same moment before. It's like I got transported back or forward in time. Like somehow, like I know I've never actually experienced this, but I feel like this. And whenever I've had deja vu, it's usually compounded on top of itself, where for a second there's this one thing where I'm like, well, that's weird, I feel like I've had this before, and then for the next 5 or 6 minutes it's like there's a continuity that I have experienced before, and that's really weird. But it's never been like, well, there's a thing, and then I look back and that thing is there again. That's not really what deja vu is.
No, the most often I have deja vu, or the most memorable is usually driving somewhere I've never been before, and I'm like, I feel like I've driven this and been whatever I'm listening to. Like, I feel like I've been here and been listening to this at the same time before.
Yes.
But I've never been here before, and I've never listened to this before. Now, the scientific explanation for deja vu, which wouldn't track with what you experienced, but the scientific explanation of deja vu is, essentially, it's just like an input malfunction where like your brain actually takes in information and there's like a delay between the relay to your actual like senses.
Okay.
And so you're experiencing it. It's like an overlap.
See, I was assuming it's just
take it in
fascinating
twice.
coincidence, where it's like, how did these same things line up exactly like they must have before?
But that's assuming that you have actually experienced it before.
Yeah,
I think deja vu,
sometimes it's
sometimes
it's a real memory, and sometimes it's like I can't place it. But I, pardon me. But I really like the idea of explaining that in the Matrix, because of what you were talking about before with things that make it feel like reality is not real and there's something more, and I can't, and I'm not seeing what really exists, because like you can't explain that, and it feels supernatural somehow, and it's like there must be some kind of broader explanation that just my puny human brain cannot comprehend. And so the idea of deja vu as glitches, where the machines like change something and like recreate a subtle part of the Matrix where it's so subtle you wouldn't notice it, but it's wrong. I love that. But the question is, can that actually explain actual deja vu? Because if it's not right in a row, like, would there be examples of that where it's like they change something that would affect your perception of something from like 4 months ago? I don't know. Maybe.
Does Cypher actually mess up, or is that an intentional, like, hey, we're in here? Because it's not played like it's a hey, we're in here, but it's very specifically Cypher that does it.
Yeah, it's interesting that Cypher does it, and I don't know if that was... I don't know if they just had him draw the short straw or what, or if that it's supposed to be more dramatic because now he has the potential of getting killed by the agents that he's working with, that he's turned against his friends for. But like, doesn't he sneeze? Isn't he the one that sneezes?
He sneezes.
Yeah, so like that's not intentional. He didn't intentionally sneeze. He was trying really hard not to sneeze.
But he like falls, he kind of like trips and makes a noise, and then dust falls on top of him.
Yeah. But he wouldn't do that on purpose because they're going to shoot them.
Yeah.
Regardless. And he doesn't want to go up against Asians. And the only way he's going to get out of this alive is if he delivers Morpheus. And in that situation, he may not be able to, so they might just kill him. Like, if Morpheus dies there, he's dead. Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
Did we just jump really far ahead?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, it hasn't happened before. It's frozen up just a little bit.
Yeah.
We even talked about the casting of Carrie-Anne Moss, who I think is very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
In that you would think, especially at that point in time, that is the thing that the studio would insist upon is like, okay, you're making this really weird movie with these not necessarily the biggest name actors.
Yeah.
The chick has to be a major hottie. right? Like 1999, that is the thing the studio insists upon. And it's very interesting that they didn't.
Like, I don't think they did. I mean, the big question is, are there people that think that she's, like, super...
I'm sure there's people that are attracted to her, but she's not Hollywood attractive.
She's not supermodel attractive.
Yeah, she's not who you would expect in this role in 1999.
And even if you think she is, she's not dressing like it or has a haircut like it. Like, she has, like, a man-type haircut in this movie.
That's kind of what what's her name's rocking in Friends. That was more in... at that time period, I think.
She's got a way shorter haircut than her, though.
But it's only on one side, isn't it? Isn't it longer on the other side?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And it's different depending on where she is.
Yeah. But no, but she's not. She's not.
Oh,
like
you're
a
right. It is
sex
longer
bomb.
on one
That's
side.
What I thought.
Yeah, but it's way shorter in outside of the Matrix. But then that makes sense because they're fugitives and stuff.
But I just think it's interesting that they were able to. There were certain things that they get away with this movie that maybe there were trade-offs. Maybe it's you can't make Switch transsexual, but we'll let you cast a more atypical female lead. Like, maybe it's stuff like that.
Something unconventional.
But I think that also... I think a lot of that helps this movie is... because with Switch and with her and with the androgynous women thing, like... I think some of that helped this movie stand out as feeling more unique than for a summer blockbuster kind of a movie. Is like we're not casting typical Hollywood people like you would expect in a movie like this, which makes it feel more real. And
it feels risky because it's not like, we have to have the obvious sex symbol, and we've got, just like TNA there, just for that side of an audience. Like, I do think this movie obviously works on different levels for people. It is a fun, over-the-top action thing, but it's also got, like, long periods of mind-bending exposition. And so I don't think you have to understand what is deep about The Matrix to enjoy The Matrix.
No, it plays on an action movie level, too. And I think the really smart thing is...
I mean, kind of like... I think Watchmen managed it, too. Like, I think there are movies like that where there are people who maybe aren't paying attention or don't care about like the philosophies or the deeper underlying metaphors and ideas and things.
I feel like Watchmen didn't work as well. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people that watch Watchmen that was like, that was too weird for me. Like, I just want a Marvel movie where they're punching each other.
But I know a lot of people that love that movie that can't begin to tell you what it's about.
Sure, but I don't think it's... I don't think it worked like The Matrix.
Oh, it didn't work like The Matrix. I'm just saying that for some people, I think that is... I was just trying to think of an example of another movie that maybe gets away with that sometimes. That's not a good example.
I think it also helps that this is a real traditional hero's journey kind of story, whether that's intentional or not.
So there's something that you can...
It's a similar through line that you can track.
I'm with you. I don't know if it's intentional either. Like, sometimes...
Well, a lot of times the hero's journey is just subconscious.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think a lot of those classic stories keep getting retold on accident. Like, they're just kind of ingrained in us. They're just kind of in our blood, which
it also just works.
Yeah.
Like, whether you know it or not, like... and it is one of the things that bothers me about...
Which obviously is part of, like, Campbell's theory.
Yes. No, I disagree with Campbell that's ingrained in us, because I
just mean ingrained in the sense that subconsciously we see it everywhere, and so then we make it again.
It's culturally ingrained, but he suggests that it's embedded into the human psyche.
Yeah,
and I disagree because there's a lot of like Japanese mythology and stuff that does not conform
to that at all.
Chinese mythology as well. Japanese and Chinese have a lot more like hyper competent heroes.
Yeah. And not as reluctant.
Yes.
Because importantly, Neo is initially a reluctant hero. Mm-hmm. He says, "No, I don't believe this. I don't want to do this."
But that's the rejecting the call. Like that's part of the hero's journey.
Yep, you have to have that.
But it is a thing that I hate about the popularity of Star Wars and it bringing like light to the hero's journey is like too many things saw Star Wars and was like, okay, so he starts as a farm kid.
Yeah, this is the formula.
I was like, no, it doesn't have to be. Literally starts on a farm. Bilbo Baggins also is in a fantasy world and goes on the hero's journey, and he doesn't work on a farm. Like he has a house and stuff, and he's also reluctant to begin. Like the Hobbit is the hero's journey as well, in a similar setting to Star Wars, kind of, but it's not the same. And after Star Wars, there were so many farm boys.
I think one of the reasons that this kind of thing tends to resonate with us is because of the dichotomy. It's that human dichotomy thing where there's a part of you. I think of most people, there's a part of us that likes that. There's an allure to being a hero, to having like to I don't know, to saving people, and then having like all of the. Sorry, he said the best thing in the movie, and I talked over it. How could he be the one if he's dead? And it's great, and it's just the best line delivery in the movie.
Do you think somebody said that at the cross when Jesus died? Like, how can he be the Son of God if he's dead?
If he's dead! And just like that. And I love that he's right about it. Like, I think if he had pulled that, he actually probably would have survived. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's a question.
Sorry,
I was trying to make a point during a very important scene. Go ahead.
We also merged the hero's journey with the messianic myth, which are not always the same thing. The hero often becomes, I guess, a messianic figure, but like not like Jesus. Like Jesus is not the hero's journey.
No, that's true. Well, I mean,
I guess
there's a little bit of reluctancy
when he's a kid.
Jesus. Yeah.
Well, but at like 6, he's going to a temple and preaching.
Yeah, and he knows he's God from the beginning. It's different. No, that's true. But what I was gonna say, I'll see if I can shorten this. But I think there's an allure. Okay, I gotta say this real quick too. The first time I saw this, I thought that helicopter was going to crash into that building. There's an allure to the idea of being a hero because of like the fame that comes with it, and just the sense of importance. But at the same time, I think most people also like the idea of having in, like, air quote, regular life. And, like, how do you put those two things together? So I think one of the reasons that we relate to the hero's journey is because we want to be both of those things.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, that's part of why the hero's journey typically ends with returning home.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're right. There's like a wish fulfillment fantasy thing where like you get your cake and eat it too. You get to go do that,
but then you get to go home and everyone can see how awesome you are.
And you can have children and all of that.
So this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and it is the scene that is hurt the most by the sequels, because I love the idea that they made a perfect Matrix the human mind could not deal with it, and they had to make it imperfect. We tried to give you a perfect world, and you didn't want it. That is completely thrown away by the sequels.
Yep. And that's part of the dichotomy thing I was talking about.
And
too.
It's the it's the I want my pain, I need my pain. Like
yes,
it's part of what makes us human. And it's so good, and the sequels just kind of throw it away because like the Architect kind of gives us a different story that doesn't really line up.
And I like the kind of perverse, or at least the way I see it, perverse and twisted way that Smith looks at it, where we are a virus, as opposed to the way I look at it, which is we want to constantly improve ourselves. That is the human condition, and it's not necessarily a negative thing, or it's both positive and negative. Where if we don't have anything to strive for, it's not just that we need things to be bad. It's not just we need conflict. Like we don't. It's not that we thrive on violence or watching people suffer or something like that. It's or like being masochists and like we thrive on our own suffering. It's that if we're stagnant and we can't and there's nothing to work toward and we can't improve, we don't know what to do with ourselves.
We need things to overcome.
Yeah. We're built to keep getting better. Which is why Akira is so interesting. I just watched that for the first time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and I just reviewed that the other day, and that's about the like human what's the word I'm looking for?
Hubris?
Well, yes, it is about that. But it's about progress, and it's about like how quickly we should be trying to get where we're going, and like whether or not we're ready for certain things.
That takes place this year. Or
last year. Yeah.
Last year,
the far-flung future of just last year.
Yeah. In the comic, you actually get to meet Akira.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he pops out of that capsule, and then he rules over Neo Tokyo.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Because in the movie, he's just a brainstem.
That is
in a jar.
That is a 6-book series, and that movie is book 1 and kind of book 6.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, it's weird.
It is a phenomenal series. But yes, very, very different. I just think it's funny that it's called Akira, and I was like, oh, but he doesn't appear in the film.
But yeah, I was just saying, that's what I was trying to say. It's about human potential.
Mm-hmm. And also one of the things that clearly influenced Chronicle.
Yeah, I talked about that too. I was like, I can't believe I reviewed Chronicle on Rewind before seeing this movie. So, how do you feel about the way Oracle, the way the Oracle, sort of kind of manipulates events here? Because it's like she seems to know what's going to happen if she tells him what she thinks he needs to hear, which is that he's not the one. But like he is the one, and she knows that. But he needs to think that he's not. I've never completely understood why exactly that is.
I mean, is it overconfidence? Is it if he thinks he's the one? Because
no, you know what it is.
It's about branching futures, right?
It's actually,
he will do the wrong things if he thinks he's the one in this moment.
No,
he won't self-sacrifice. He won't do whatever he needs to do.
I think it's about learning it on his own.
Mm-hmm.
It's not overconfidence. It's that he's not confident yet. He doesn't believe he's the one. And even if she did, he doesn't believe in that fate crap.
Mm-hmm.
So if she says you're the one,
he wouldn't believe
he's going to have to find that out on his own. And maybe he'll discover it faster if he thinks he's not, because all the things that make him the one are still there.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has to come to believe on his own. I love the subtle religious stuff in this. If there is like a greater power or a god or something, nobody can, like the Matrix, nobody can tell you what that is. You have to discover it for yourself. And
well, and is it the vase? Is the one hitting the vase? If she told him that he was the one, would he have hit the vase metaphorically?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure. So I have a question about Morpheus's belief system. Because it's really vague, right? Like, Morpheus believes in the Oracle and the idea of the... Not that she's like his god or anything, but he believes in the idea of the one. But he also... And he won't know until the sequel that all of that is built into this computer system in the first place. Mm. But does that mean that he thinks that all of that is part of, like... a higher power beyond the Matrix, the whole fate thing, or does he already kind of get that it's part of the computer system?
Yeah, I don't know, because that throws in a mystical angle into the technological...
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that would mean... But if he does... Because I suspect it's the first thing, because if he doesn't think there's a mystical angle, then that would mean that his belief system is all about the very thing he hates?
Yeah, no, it'd have to be mystical. And it probably is a prophecy. Well, I guess it's the Oracle that gave the prophecy, so it's somebody in the Matrix. I'm not sure why he trusts her.
Yeah, and he doesn't know that she's a program yet.
Do they not? Does no one know that she's a program?
No, that's revealed in Reloaded. That's part of that first conversation.
Oh, I thought everyone knew she was a program. Okay.
No, okay. And that's why there's stuff like that I like, but if you look at this as a movie by itself, it's not really canonical yet. Mm-hmm. We don't know what she is in this movie.
Okay.
If you ignore the sequels, she may not be a program.
Okay.
Because this movie doesn't even tell you that the one is part of a system.
Yeah. This is the shot.
Yeah, no, you're right. How do we not keep doing this kind of stuff?
Yeah, and it's not like we don't suit up with weapons in the
You'd think
sequels.
we would escalate it and we would have like bigger stuff in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd think we would have contrived a way to do a fight sequence here.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Well, and with Smith getting free or whatever, like...
Where you keep, like, loading... Wouldn't that have been fun? Where, like, you're fighting agents in this, and you just keep loading crap and shooting it at it, like, you get bigger and bigger things. Yeah. Wouldn't that have been fun? We should have done that.
This is also one of the things stolen from Invisibles.
Really?
Is the bald mentor strapped to a chair being tortured. And specifically, like, there is a panel of him, like, doing the, like, thing. Yes.
Where he breaks his shackles, and then very shortly thereafter, it's like he wasn't tortured at all.
But yes.
Because he gets lucid real quick.
Because if you believe in... Well, I think that actually happens in The Invisibles. Because if you believe Grant Morrison, that character was like a magical cipher for him, and so things that happened to that character happened to Grant Morrison. And so when he was torturing him in the story, Grant Morrison suddenly had to be rushed to the hospital because his lungs were filling with blood.
Oh my God.
Which is what happened to his character.
Wow.
And then he quickly wrote his character for that to not happen, and he immediately got better. This is what Grant Morrison says happened.
Wow.
And so that's also what happens to Morpheus.
Well, then Grant Morrison's going to live forever.
But The Invisibles is like a weird, like, super sigil thing. It's hard to explain, but like The Invisibles as a comic book is also a magical sigil that is supposed to influence the world.
Okay, so this is important. This is where Smith becomes the anti-Neo.
Because he wants out.
Yes. He wants the same thing Neo wants.
Okay.
And that's what's so fascinating about him. I love that.
I had forgotten that he.
Yeah, I want to get free, and so yeah, the idea of him coming back in the sequels as like the big arch nemesis is kind of
get free.
The only thing you can do. Yeah, he gets free, but in order to stay free, he still has to oppose Neo.
So this scene is often brought up as like a major criticism of the film. All of these security guards are just people hooked up to the batteries.
Yes.
And they don't necessarily know what's going on.
What people complain about that?
Yes. Because they're just mowing down innocent human beings.
But there's an explanation for that.
Is there?
Well, yeah. Morpheus talks about that earlier in the film. Or is it Trinity? Somebody says when Neo's being trained, they're right now we have to treat them as part of the system. They don't know that they're plugged in, and they are going to be essentially controlled by the machines, and like they're not ready to be unplugged. The thing is, they don't even unplug people unless they're kids. So like, essentially, all these people are going to die on the Matrix anyway. And, like, I'm not saying that doesn't make them innocent human beings and that it doesn't suck that they're killing, and they are killing a lot of, like actual innocent people, but at the same time, like, the way they have to, or at least this is how it's explained, the way they have to approach them is, like, they're just part of the system and they're in their agents. And furthermore, remember that the agents can become them.
Yes.
And you never know when that might happen.
Yes.
So the fewer of them there are...
Can the agents become anyone, or is it only paramilitary authority figures?
No, because Smith does it to the homeless guy in the...
Oh, and they do it to a construction worker, I think, at some point, like a crane.
And I think there's like an old lady somewhere.
Yeah,
and there's the helicopter guy.
But never like normal people. Like, they don't become like Neo's boss.
No.
At least as far as I can remember. I feel like they do the like warp into the person stuff less in the sequels.
They actually do quite a bit.
Okay. Well,
because what they do in the sequels is Smith will become a person and then clone them, and then become a Smith. So like he'll take over somebody and they become a Smith.
Right. That's right.
We do that a lot.
We do that a lot. This scene also very iconic.
I guess for kids now, one of the things that would. One of the things that would... That's what I was going to say, is one of the things that would really, I guess, date this for kids now is just all the techno.
But I feel like some of this stuff...
But I like how it works now almost like a period piece, where it's like the machines picked this period. And, I talked about this in the video I made with DJ, but, like... I get that there's not much history in this world after this, because we make AI very quickly afterwards, but if you ignore that, I kind of like the idea that this is just the period the machines chose, and so this is what all these people
and we also don't know what, like, shortly after means. Like, we're told that, I'm pretty sure we're told that, like, this is, like, the last good days before, like, all that stuff.
We have no idea how much time passes.
That could be 50 years.
It could.
And in the real world, we're right on track for that.
And we don't know exactly. Well, and that's where it parallels Terminator real hard. Mm-hmm. Because like Skynet and this would have happened like almost at the same time.
But that last Skynet's 96. Yes, is that right? 95?
Yeah, but like, how long does it take for Skynet to become the Terminators? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think in 2 they say like it's like instantaneous, not the Terminators, but like the second it goes online, Judgment Day, right? It doesn't like slowly.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case,
in
Judgment
the Matrix,
Day...
it's a slower
no, I'm wrong,
because we have the machines as slaves, and then...
Well, and I forgot Judgment Day is early 90s. So I guess the machines in that take over faster or earlier in history than they would here, but it's a similar situation.
But
though.
with that techno track in that action scene before, I don't think that one specifically a kid would look at and go, "That's dated." I think more likely to go, "That's where that song is from."
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, it gets used a lot.
Interesting.
I think it gets used in a lot of dance routines.
So you complain about fire a lot.
It's not good fire. It's not terrible fire. I don't know if we've actually improved our fire. No,
but
no,
I
we've
think
definitely
that
gotten
is.
better for
I think
fire.
that is a thing that is the thing in this movie that most looks like it's made in a computer.
Yeah.
That's always funny. Do you have what I do? Sprinklers when there's like a few seconds where everybody's just standing around and suddenly sprinklers. That's always funny to me.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I like that. But yeah, see the helicopter guy.
Yeah. Well, but he would still be.
I guess he
like
was part of the military. Yeah.
Whatever they are. Security
can you
guards?
answer a question DJ had for me?
Okay.
Because I couldn't quite. I had an idea, but I couldn't quite do it. Why is this rated R?
They swear.
That's what I said, and he didn't buy that was enough. But I'm like,
they say the F word quite a bit.
The F word is never used in this film.
Is it not?
The S word is used like 40 times. The S word is used the way the F word would be used now, and it will be very interesting to see 4, because I bet 4 will have F-bombs constantly. There's not one F word in any of the Matrix movies.
That. This is the height of Tarantino, and like everyone just putting the F word in every single, like, between words. Like, this is the height of F-bomb movies.
Maybe they wanted to. I have no idea. I mean, like, were they going for a PG-13
maybe
and they still couldn't get it?
Yeah, maybe this is, that looks awful. Maybe this is just one of those things. I've always thought that looked awful, like the way they light it and the way, like, it looks like a TV movie in that 1 second.
You're making a good point. I mean, I guess I don't know why it was S's and not F's if this was always going to be rated R, but
maybe it's just too intense for 1999. And there is, like, some blood and stuff, but, like, I think this is a PG-13 now.
Exactly.
Certainly.
I think it is, too.
No, I thought they said the F word. Do they say it in the sequels?
I don't think it ever comes up.
Interesting.
Maybe I'm forgetting one. Maybe they did, like, the token one.
The sequels are also R, and they're not any particularly more, like, they're gory.
There's
not,
one
like,
bit
more...
where that's a lot more sexually explicit, but that's it. And even that's not nudity.
Are you talking about the sex scene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that would get you an R.
No, I think that's a PG-13 sex scene, right?
I think
There's
so.
no nudity
I think so, too.
No.
There's, like, behind-the-back nudity, but it's stuff that you can put in a PG-13 movie.
It just has to be the level of violence, right? Well, and again, like...
This level in Path of Neo drives me crazy, because you have to shoot out, like, 40 windows. There's so many windows.
And she said, dodge this. Did you ever play Spider-Man, the movie, the game?
No.
There is a cheat code that you can put in that gets you bullet time, which just makes kind of everything slow down so you can move faster.
Yeah.
And, like, react faster, and the password was dodge this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is there's another point that DJ made that I would like to make for him, because it's
look at all those bullet shells.
That,
that, by the way, is very John Woo. John was obsessed with bullet shells. Although I think those bullet shells still had the bullets in them. I could be wrong. It looked like they still had bullets.
I have to say this.
Yes.
How did Morpheus not get hit by any of that?
It's the Matrix.
He's not dodging. He's not moving around. He's not doing anything.
No,
and I had never, ever thought of that. And I'm like, no, that is ridiculous.
Yep.
Because we just had a scene not that long ago where it's like, oh no, we're getting shot in an elevator shaft. We're all gonna die. And then machine gun fire all over this room, and he doesn't get hit at all. Why did I never notice that? I've seen this movie like 36 times.
I don't know.
And he's gonna get hit here with just like some handgun bullets. He gets hit one time. And of course, this shot is very iconic now.
But, so Stanley said something about comics that I think about a lot. that I think people have forgotten, where he said superhero comic books don't do violence, they do action.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what this is, right? And like that would be my dividing line for PG-13 and R. Like, I don't think this is a violent movie. I think it's an action movie.
I think it's both.
Okay.
I would make the argument that the bathroom scene is pretty intense.
That's true. That's true.
That is not action, that is violence.
Well, and the Smith-Neo fight gets pretty... And, like, that's the kind of thing that I think makes it R in a weird way, because oftentimes, like, you'll get that back from the MPAA, where it's just like, there's nothing you can do this. It's just the intensity level makes this R.
Yeah.
And I think...
You can't cut anything out of it.
Yeah, because, like, I don't think that the Smith-Neo fight... Like, it's not
But when those SWAT team guys come in and just start beating the crap out of him on the floor, like, and like, it's pretty rough and visceral with him and Smith, too, but, like... That's just a straight-up beatdown, and there's a lot of blood in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right; most of it is action over violence. I like that. I also forgot he had said that.
No, it's a thing. I think Modern Superhero Comics is completely forgotten.
So I'm gonna sound like an idiot. I've never 100% completely understood what exactly Neo is doing here that makes everybody go, "Oh God, he is the one." Like he like stops the helicopter. And then there's, like... And then that happens. And I don't know why that happens.
So that can happen.
Right, but then Morpheus is going to go, oh my God, he is. He's the one. And, like, there's this shockwave thing that's like, you broke the Matrix. What exactly did he do? Like, okay, so just see, yeah, when Tank's going to go, he's the one.
Is it...
I don't understand what's happening.
That he, like, delayed the reaction of the explosion so she could get away?
Oh, like he stopped it?
Yeah. Like he's
and that's why there's the
shockwave.
Oh. That must be what it is.
That's my guess.
Okay. Are you with me that that's somewhat confusing? That it doesn't, like, really communicate?
I don't ever remember being confused before, but watching this now, talking over it, I don't know. That is just my best guess. But I can't, but, like, I don't ever remember watching it before and being like, what are they talking about?
So this movie has a double climax. Most action movies would be done by now.
Yes.
Or we would have
saved, well, and... A modern version of this would have ended there, right?
Yeah,
and we'll get them the next day.
What I was going to say is actually it wouldn't. What it would do is you would have... Agent Smith would have been in the middle of all that, and we would think he's dead, and then his hand would come up from somewhere, and then we'd fight him for like 6 seconds, and he'd be gone. That's what we would do. So we would do an intentional double beat where it's like, oh God, he's still coming! But when I watched this with DJ, he was like, oh, I can't believe the climax is here so soon. And I'm like, because it's not the climax. We're not done. Like he just said. He basically just said what I said.
But it's also structured like Star Wars, which also has a double climax. Because they escape the Death Star, they have the lightsaber fight,
yes.
Everyone gets away free, and then we go back to the Death Star and do the trench run.
Yeah, that's true. Although that always feels like the middle of the movie, whereas this really does. We've been watching it long enough; it feels like that could have been the third act. Like,
I know a lot of people that think that the trench run is unnecessary in that movie.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
They got away from the bad guys. Like, it's over.
Okay,
they got
but your
the princess.
movie
They achieved their goal
at the 50-minute mark, if that's the case. Like
with Star Wars.
Yeah, when they go back and have. I mean, you're talking about the lightsaber duel with Kenobi, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 50 minutes in. Like,
no, it's not. Like, Star Wars is like 210, so like that trench run.
I have to go back and look.
That trench run is only like 20 minutes.
You watch that a lot more than I do, but I'm pretty sure you're only about an hour in, 50 minutes, an hour in.
I know that's wrong, but just because I do think the trench run is too long, but it's only like 20 minutes.
Okay, but I'll just say it always felt like the halfway point to me.
No, that's fair. But no.
So she's gonna do it again.
but I have heard people criticize Star Wars for like it has 2 climaxes, it doesn't need them. The emotional climax is I don't necessarily agree with that, but I have heard that.
So this is just a plot device, and I'm not complaining about it. I like that we have consistent rules for it. It's fine, but I do find myself curious as to how exactly the exits got set up. Like, you have all these
any phone,
phones
right?
everywhere. It's not, though. There are specific phones that do it. Because the operator has to tell you where the exits are. So there's, like, some that do it and some that don't. He's like there's an exit there. And in a lot of them, obviously this is like a Western now, a lot of them are in phone booths. But they're not all phone booths. So I was going to make a joke earlier where I was going to say it'd be really funny if one of the exits was in Neo's apartment, where, like, Morpheus could have just shown up at any time, but you want to freak him out, so he didn't. But I don't think it's any phone. If it was, why does the operator have to tell you where an exit is? Like,
well, it would be the
you just
specific
break into
phone
somebody's
they're
house
calling,
and go find
right?
Yeah.
But why wouldn't they just call when you get there?
No, because he'll tell you before he calls it. He'll go like oh, there's an exit over there. It's like they have all these. Yeah, it's like a video game. It's
is that just
they have
the
all these
nearest
things lit up.
phone?
I don't think it is. Okay.
Okay.
Because they talk about jacking in. It's like they need a specific place to jack in at.
Did we miss?
So I'm assuming that it's somehow. I don't know if this makes sense. Is it somehow connected, like related to where in the real world they jack in? Somehow?
No.
I don't see how, though. Anyway, that's never totally made sense to me.
Did we miss the part where Neo's looking for the phone and he says your other left?
No, that's right after this.
Okay. Because I have a thing
this keeps
about
going.
that.
You'd also think it's all going to end in the subway, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
He keeps running. And that's not a criticism. I don't think this stuff goes on too long.
No.
Because it's all wonderful. In a minute, we're going to see my favorite move in the whole movie, which is the neck move.
Neck thing?
It's
Yeah.
great.
Smith
it's so
also
absurd.
moves very mechanically.
Yes.
Which I like.
Which he should.
Which is a thing that we will lose in the sequels. They will be more fluid.
He spit up blood.
Yeah.
And he's got blood in his mouth.
They got punched in the stomach again. Or in the chest.
Sure. But you're not going to see blood coming out of the stomach.
Well, no, but what I mean is, it's that gut punch reaction.
Yeah.
Like you can make yourself gag. I don't know if you can make yourself spit up blood, but...
Okay, sure.
But I buy...
I've always thought that was a really nice payoff. It's one of those things that doesn't feel like a setup.
It's also interesting that he doesn't do the blood thing, because iconically, like, that move is always like you taste the blood and then you...
That's true.
Bruce Lee does that in Enter the Dragon.
No, I'm glad. But I'm glad he didn't do that, because that would kind of confuse the point of it. Because the point of it is, I'm where Morpheus hoped I could get. Like in that scene, Morpheus was the mentor. Now I'm your mentor. B word, right? Come and get some. Okay, so I meant to say this like an hour ago, and this is as good a place as any. I love the crazy thing, by the way, he'll do with the subway, where somehow he's on it. I always love that. That's always great.
When we get to the credits, remind me to talk about batteries.
Batteries?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Because we don't have a place for it right now, but when we get to the credits, just remind me.
So this script loves a couple of phrases that just constantly come back over and over again, and it gets kind of like I said, I think of The Matrix as a melodrama, but it gets kind of silly that different characters are all speaking the same way. It does have that, and one of the big ones is it's good for one thing. They say that like 5 times about different things.
And different
like
people say
this you never noticed that before?
No.
Like Cypher says it about the alcoholic beverage. He's like, it's good for one thing, greasing engines and whatever it is. And, we're training you for one thing, and it comes up constantly. It's one thing or 2 things. This movie also, of course, is loved because everything seems to be there for a reason. Everything kind of means something. There's very little stuff that's placed in a scene or in the background that doesn't thematically connect or seem to. And I think some people sometimes read in things that maybe weren't intentional or aren't really there. I think the Apartment 101 thing absolutely is intentional. The binary thing. But my favorite new thing that I didn't discover until a couple of viewings ago, and I talked about this in that video I made recently too, is there is a jazz song that's playing during the Oracle scene in the background. That's just a song I know, and I would have never noticed it except I noticed the melody. I was like, oh, I know that song, and the name of that song is "I'm Beginning to See the Light." It's great. It's like everything means something.
So this is a thing that gets
He said old exit.
Okay.
There are specific ones that they've set up.
Weird. Yeah, I guess
And
I
you
never
can't do it with
really
cell
thought
phones.
of that. Yeah.
Like it has to be landlines because it's connected to.
Could you do it now with smartphones, do you think? Do you think smartphones can connect to the Matrix? Or whatever they have to be connected to?
Can I make the prediction that they will do that?
Yeah. But then that makes it too easy.
I really
But, like,
need...
no one has landlines anymore. What else? I didn't even think of that. No one doesn't have cell phones now. Like,
I need the Matrix to not be set now, I think. I think that needs to not happen. Of course, what I'd much rather have would be... I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. With the Matrix, the thing I'd most rather have is a prequel, actually. Because I think it would be really interesting to go back and do the first one.
okay, so there's the other
I
left.
don't usually
thing.
want that, but yes.
I am convinced the other left is a mistake. Or is a thing he did wrong on the day. The only time I've ever seen someone intentionally write and use...
Your other left.
It's a joke. It's not a joke in that scene?
Well, it actually plays as a joke. Like, everybody laughs at that.
But does the movie think it's a joke?
No, I think you're right. I think the movie's covered its ass.
I feel like Keanu messed up in that moment, which is fine. Like, he's running and doing choreography, and people are fake shooting at him. Like,
But then you think they ADR'd it after.
I think they ADR'd
Like,
it
he goes
after.
in. And,
Yes.
Yeah. Here come the squiddies, Eric.
Okay, so this scene is completely ruined by the sequel. In fact, the sequel ruins this whole premise.
Yes.
Because we're told they do not look great. They are a little bit better than Beast Wars. We are told that
Man, you're kind of right about that.
we are put. It's at least Beast Machines. We are put in an interesting situation. The only weapon we have is the EMP. We cannot fight back.
Yeah.
Except for all of the guns we have that are on every other ship.
Yeah, and
Except for the Nebuchadnezzar.
And we have mech robots.
Yeah, which all have guns. So what we
And the machines are not just susceptible to the guns. It's not just like it doesn't take a whole bunch to knock them down. Like they just send like 1 billion of them, and the robots are just all about numbers.
There
like,
needs to be a conversation in the second one where Neo's like, I thought you said the only weapon we have. He's like, no, the only weapon we have, not humanity as a whole. I meant our
not
ship.
Zion.
The only weapon we... But it's in this, it's very clear. They have no way to fight the machines.
It would have been really funny if they covered it the exact same way with the same line as they cover the agents being able to fight Neo at all.
Upgrades?
Where somebody just looks at somebody else and goes, upgrades.
But no, it's... The way it's presented here is much more interesting because we don't actually have a way to fight back, which means the only way we can fight back is in the Matrix. We cannot have a physical confrontation in the real world. And then we just squander all of that interesting drama and like stakes and risk and tension.
Yeah.
It's a huge mistake in the sequels.
So this is one of those scenes and one of those big plot points that I feel like you can read a couple of ways. This is either insanely sappy and way too easy and just like the fate wins out thing, or there's more going on here and I'm not totally sure if I'm reading it right. So does he actually die or not?
No, I think he does.
When Trinity kisses him, is he being brought back to life, or is he like, does being the one make you so hard to be killed that he's not actually fully dead yet, and that just kind of like wakes him up?
It doesn't matter whether he's fully dead or not. He's full of like 6 bullets. Like, he then gets up and starts fighting again.
But that's okay because
I
he's
think
the one.
It
like,
heals him. If he's not fully dead, it heals him. But no, I think he's dead because it's the Jesus thing. It's the Messiah thing. Like, it is the... It's mythical. Like, it doesn't have to be fate.
But I can't accept the magic kiss is the problem.
I don't know.
I have such a hard time with
like,
that.
it's the reason that he...
Because DJ suggested... Because he and I talked about this.
It's what he has to fight for.
And he kind of fixed it for me a little bit when he said, well, maybe he's just not fully dead, and I never thought of that. Because if he is, this is just too sappy even for this movie.
I mean, I guess it's the fate thing because that's what the Oracle told her she had to do, right? But Okay, so here's my because I have a different problem.
Well, what I thought all the Oracle told her was that she was that she would fall in love with the One.
But maybe that, yeah, I don't know.
Did she? Well, I just never thought of that. Did she tell her this would happen?
Maybe not this specifically, but that like somehow her love would save him or something. My issue,
because her logic there makes no sense. When she's like, well, you can't be dead because I love you. It's like, I get the cipher logic of how can you be the One if you're dead, because there's a prophecy there, and the One is supposed to do something, but you could fall in love with him and he could die, and that would not make him not the One. Like, that logic makes
but
no
the One
sense.
can't die. No,
but
I think that makes sense.
We're not told the One can't die.
He wouldn't die in this situation, I guess. No,
okay, but what's the issue you have?
I don't buy them as a couple.
I don't either.
And to get to a magic kiss, if it is a magic kiss, I have to.
Yes.
Like, they do not have any chemistry, and I think that's a problem when you hinge your movie on it, and it also feels like a studio thing. And it's more integrated in the movie, but it feels like a thing that is not there with an earlier draft of the film.
Like you said earlier, the studio allows her to not be a typical sex symbol, but he falls in love with her like she is one, because... What else is there? What is he enamored with her over?
Mm-hmm.
And Reloaded has that even worse, where it really feels like we're both hot, so we like each other.
And less chemistry in the sequel,
which should not be possible.
But I'm not even sure if in this movie they necessarily don't have chemistry as much as they don't have screen time. We don't develop that romance, and I'm fine if it's not a full-blown romance and just she's in love with him, but I need to buy it more from her. Like, I'm okay with just, like, I love you. Like, he doesn't have to love her back. Like, I love you and I know that the One will be the person that I love. That's fine. It doesn't have to be an actual romance, but I need to get it from her beyond just the scene telling me, which is what happens. That stuff still looks pretty good.
Yeah, I like it a lot, especially the like bumps going across Smith's head when he goes inside him. That looks great.
I like it when it goes up on the eye, and that's also the kind of effect I feel like a 99 could have pushed you to R, like coupled with the violent action.
That's fair. So there are things that 20 years later we would not feel the need to come out and explain and have exposition about. We would not have to tell you what AI is, and we would not have like what that acronym is, and we would not have to tell you what an EMP is. Yeah. And for the audience's benefit, they have to have somebody come out and say...
I feel like this is a little late even for the EMP.
Artificial intelligence... electromagnetic pulse. AI more than EMP. EMP, I think, people start to understand a lot more later because we're in real life worried about that now.
Well, we were in the 80s, weren't we? Wasn't that part of the thing with Russia? Isn't there like an EMP? Because the nuclear bomb creates an EMP.
I don't think as broadly as now, though. Okay. I don't think that was common knowledge the way it is now. There was a big, like, in like the mid-2000s, I felt like there was like this big EMP scare where it's like suddenly people understood that there was this thing that could like take out a whole city and make it to where you couldn't turn anything back on. And people were freaking out because they'd never heard of that before.
Which to my understanding is not exactly what an EMP does.
So I don't know what we're actually looking at here. Are we looking at the future, or are we just looking at what
we're looking at the Matrix?
Right, but the system failure hasn't happened because the Matrix is still happening. So what is the system failure?
I'm not sure.
Like, I don't think anything's really happening there.
Like, I think it's part of the Matrix. Like, it's the command part of the Matrix. But I do like
the MF thing. Oh, okay. It's a system failure because now Neo can control everything. I think I'm not immediately getting that because I know the sequels and they have to ignore that part. But yeah, I don't think Neo cares if anyone sees him fly. And I think that's also true in the sequel, but then just conveniently, like Smallville logic, nobody ever notices.
But the sequels also regret having him fly, right?
Oh, they've got to. Yeah.
Because they don't really want him to be flying. They don't have to deal with that.
I also think it's intentional that he has what looks like a fourth wall break at the end, where he looks directly out at you. I love that. I think that's a great choice.
I agree.
So you wanted to talk about something during the credits?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to go look up a YouTube video.
Yes.
Where they take this Rage Against the Machine song and put it to the ending of other movies, and it works every time.
And it's really funny.
Batman Begins works, I think, the best, as in just like played straight, like works the best. But Citizen Kane is also wonderful.
Yeah, Citizen Kane's my favorite.
It's like a 6 or 7 minute video. Like, do yourselves a favor, go look that up. It's the ending of other movies, but it uses this song. Like,
do you know who made that? CinemaSins made that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Good on them.
Yep.
They don't make a lot of good products, but when they do.
I don't watch a lot of their stuff, but they do a lot of those kinds of things sometimes as stingers at the ends of videos, and they're always funny.
So this is the thing I thought of, but we just didn't get a second to talk
Just
about.
a great place, yeah.
Yeah. So you remember when Morpheus holds
we
up?
could do a second commentary and talk about like everything would be different. That we like. There's so much stuff we didn't get to.
You remember when Morpheus holds up the D battery?
Yes.
How long?
I thought it was a C.
It's the big round one. What's the big round? Is that a C or is
well,
that
C's and D's are bigger than double A's and
D is the square?
No, no C's and I mean there's a D battery that's round. That's round, I think. Yeah.
Then I think that's what he holds up.
It's a C or a D. I'm just not sure what the size is, but it's not important. Go ahead.
He holds up the big
he holds
battery.
Up the battery. Yep.
Which one? We haven't altered the design of batteries in a very long time. But 2, just futurist prediction. How long do we have before that becomes a dated thing that when people go back and watch this movie, they're either like, "What's that?" or "Oh yeah, that used to be a thing." Like, how far away from batteries, or at least what we see as batteries are we?
It's interesting that's a great question. I hadn't thought of that. It's a
there it is. Neo Chad Stileski.
Yeah.
Stunt double. That is the director of John Wick.
That's awesome. And he was Neo's stunt double.
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that. I mean, I knew he worked with him on this movie, but I thought he was like a coordinator. I didn't realize he is
that as well.
I didn't realize
he is specifically Keanu's stunt double. But I couldn't remember if it was in this movie or if it was not till the second one. But I knew he worked on this movie too. But yeah, he is Neo's stunt double from the beginning.
Let's talk about the battery question.
Okay,
that's really interesting. It's interesting to me that we have changed the light bulb dramatically, but we haven't done anything to the battery. There are different kinds of batteries, I guess, now that we didn't used to have. But when I was a kid, a bunch of stuff ran on double A's, and now a bunch of stuff still runs on double A's. I don't know how long that lasts. It still seems to be the most convenient way to deal with certain things. There's a lot of stuff though that we just charge in USB now, where like we'll have a cord and you charge. Like a lot of remote control cars and drones and things are charged that way now, and they have like an internal battery that you don't see.
Well, and just before this, we were having a conversation about wireless.
You brought up the USB thing.
Wireless mouse, and I was like, well, why aren't they just USB? And they charge like everything else.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's got to exist, and I just haven't seen one. But, so when do we get to a point where we just charge everything and the batteries are all internal and we don't have batteries?
Or even...
So far, are we doing that just because it's cheaper to produce things like that?
Maybe.
Is that why? Is it to keep battery manufacturers in business? I guess I don't know why we're doing that.
Part of it. But even on top of that...
We still use lithium batteries for things.
Yeah. But even on top of that, he holds up the Duracell battery.
Yeah.
That design's been, as long as I've been alive, and to my understanding, even longer.
It hasn't changed at all.
When do they change that design? There's no reason it has to look that way.
And it could probably be smaller at this point. I don't know, but it probably could.
But like, I just mean like the black and the brown.
But like we still have the different sizes. Like, do we even need that? Like, do we need things to run on AAA's? Why is AAA still a thing?
If it's like other things, it is about like how much energy you're pumping into it. Like, if something that runs on AAA's gets double A's, it's too much energy. Because I know that's a thing that
makes sense. See, I'm not pretending like I have any idea what I'm talking about here. I'm asking questions. I don't know the answer to this.
Because I know that's a problem with certain power cords for game systems where something will fit, but if it's not strong enough, it won't turn the system on. If it's too strong, it can overload it.
That's interesting. There's a whole set of credits for bullet time.
And interesting, that they name it.
They do, yeah.
I never necessarily knew that they named bullet time, or if that's just what everybody called it.
Yeah.
And it will forever more be known as bullet time, although they did not originate bullet time. It's actually in dispute who originated bullet time, because Blade comes out same year and has a bullet time shot. It's either the same year or the year after, but like they're making that movie before this comes out.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Or I think Blade comes out right before this, and it has a bullet time shot. And I think there's a movie even before Blade that has bullet time.
And now it's like, it goes without saying that we use that in a lot of things, but it's standard, especially for any character in something with super speed. Mm-hmm. That like because obviously Smallville does it, and it's got to do it because of the Matrix.
Well, and I didn't talk much about John Woo, but it's an extraction of John Woo. John Woo, didn't create popularized slow motion gunfights, and that's just an extension of that. Like, if it's shooting slow, now we're going to actually see the bullets.
I also want to mention that I have developed a new love in just the last few years for Rage Against the Machine, which is a band I never really cared for, but I've been going back and listening to them. I like them.
I've never loved them.
Like, I haven't listened to a whole album or anything, but
yes.
Some of their popular songs I've been going back to recently. I'm like, no, I think I really like this band.
What is thematrix.com? You think that's still up?
It's probably not. But I imagine what it probably does is it explains it to you, and then it says, but you have to see it for yourself.
Oh, I didn't realize Joe Silver produced this. That's interesting.
I didn't know that either.
He's a big action movie producer. He produced most of Shane Black's films.
Well, everybody, thanks a lot for listening. This is an absolute treat. I've been wanting to talk about The Matrix
I feel like we had a really good
long
conversation.
time. Yeah, I did too. Thanks so much for doing it with me, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, I wanted to do this for years, and I don't know why. Like for so long, I've been doing this channel. And we
specifically have been talking. Since I moved here, we've been talking about it.
Yeah, and I think maybe even before that, like you and I did so many random movie commentaries remotely. I don't know why we never did this. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I would. I don't know who would listen to them, but I would absolutely like to do this at some point on the sequels. If not with you, with somebody.
Now, do you know that the third one I have not seen since theaters?
It would be really funny to have you watch it again.
I remember,
as an almost blind commentary.
My theater experience walking out of that movie is that 80% of that movie are guys in mechs going like this with their arms. And like I remember, when did that movie come out?
Hey Eric, you're wrong. It's only like 73%.
Okay. Well, when does that movie? Is it 2002?
So 03 is Reloaded, and then Revolutions comes out like 6-8 months later, I think. Or maybe it's a full year, but it's like 04? The same year, or 04.
Okay.
But they're real close to each other. So I
am 12 or 13. And I walked out of that at 12 or 13 and said, how did they possibly make a mech fight boring?
Yeah.
And I was at the age I should have liked that.
If we do a comment, so Reloaded, I've got a lot to say about.
Same here.
I think we could have a really fun discussion on that. But I think that we should make a pact, and when we get to the Architects fight, we say nothing. Do the Architect discussion. There should be an Architect fight. When we get to the Architect scene, we should just lay out and say nothing and just watch the Architect talking.
We actually have a thing to talk about in that scene.
Actually, that's okay.
Because
maybe
we have
to talk about
a huge difference of opinion of what's going on in that scene.
I don't even remember this discussion.
That's about the screens.
Oh, yes, we do. Yeah. Okay, no. We should at some point do that. I think that would be a lot of fun. I think Revolutions is going to be us digging for stuff to say.
I don't know. I haven't seen it since theaters. I remember that train fight that doesn't need to be there. That train station scene that takes up like the first third of the movie.
It's like, because it's weird how they're treated like one long movie, kind of. But it's like somebody else came in
But the Matrix movies do get progressively worse.
They do, but it's like somebody came in... it's like somebody new came in to finish, almost like somebody wrote a movie and then passed it on to somebody else, kind of like what happened with Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. It feels that way to some degree with those, where it's like somebody came in and tried to make the least interesting thing possible, and that's not a slight at Last Jedi. I'm just saying it feels like,
or Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. I'm not saying that
lots of plot threads are dropped.
I'm not saying that's dog on Star Wars. I'm just saying that it feels like a different.
It feels like something that's supposed to be one cohesive story.
Yeah.
It's not just a sequel, it's a continuation, and it doesn't line up.
But the difference is, it is new people that came in and did that with Last Jedi. With this, it's the same people, I think. And it's really... it always seemed clear to me that, because I think that ends on a really good cliffhanger. It, like, Reloaded is weird and not good,
the Matrix
but I
and the Matrix,
enjoy it.
or
Like,
what everyone knew was the Matrix and the Matrix.
yeah, it's like, because why else is he stopping that Squiddy in real life? How is that happening?
Yeah.
And then it's like we made the least possible interesting conclusion to that. And who wants to watch a Matrix movie that's like 70-80% in Zion? Who cares?
Do you also remember that the architect specifically tells him that he can that like he has the choice, and if he goes and saves Trinity, there will be like the Matrix will shut down or something, and we just never follow up on that plot thread.
Huh. She is going to die, and there is nothing you can do about it. So Revolutions you've only seen the one time, but did you go back to Reloaded very much?
Yes, because I had it on DVD when I was a kid, or when I was a teenager. So like I watched that pretty frequently. Like I watched The Matrix.
That is one of those movies that I recognize is not good, but I really like watching it.
I
really like watching it. I don't know why.
Did you ever watch that like I think it was on Newgrounds, that video where Neo walks into the architect, but like the architect's just a doll. Did you ever see that? So the architect's just a doll, and Neo like pulls the string. There's like a string on the doll. He pulls the string, and it's like, "My name is the architect, and I created the Matrix." And he like pulls again. He's like, "Vis-a-vis. There go."
There go. That's awesome. Well, anyway, maybe at some point we'll come back and do those. Thanks so much for listening. Hope
I
you guys...
just used my best Reloaded story.
Well, that's okay. Maybe people will forget, or you know what? It's just
go.
It's worth listening to again. It's funny.
And
Anyway,
the MTV parody of That's Not Bad with
oh really?
Will Ferrell is the architect, I believe. I remember not all of it being great, but
everybody wanted to make fun of that right then, because it's
we didn't even talk about how every comedy movie for the next 4 years had to do the slow motion jump and whirl around the camera thing. Everything.
It felt like every genre of movie was doing that. You know?
But at least other ones weren't like being as blatant. Like every comedy
somebody can
thought
find
they
me
were clever.
Somebody can find me a rom-com that does it. I bet.
Yeah.
I bet there's like a standard rom-com that finds some reason to do that.
Shrek does it. Kung Pao does it. Scary Movie does it. Like everything was doing it, and they all. I don't know. Like, if I was making a comedy and I went to another comedy and I saw that, like, I would be like, okay, so we're going to cut that scene, right? Like, somebody beat us to it. But whatever. So that's
but then
the
they
Matrix.
all did it, yeah. Well,
we commentary on the Matrix.
Once again, I hope you guys had a good time. We sure did. And we'll see you again next time. I was Captain Logan.
And I was Eric.
And I was Eric. Bye, folks.